And we are live. How's everybody doing tonight? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and you're watching and/or listening to a special edition of ABL Live. We have the so-called Big Boy Conference coming right up, and I can't wait for that. Oh, I can't wait. They've literally, I'm not even making that up. I'm not just putting stuff in the title for attention. No, Karine Jean-Pierre, John Kirby, they both called this conference from Joe Biden the Big Boy Conference. And I have a little preview, I think. I have a little preview of what may go on. Let me just show you something real quick before we get to the actual video, which should start at about 6:30. I got the stream already prepared, loaded up. So it should start at 6:30. And as a matter of fact, let me see if I can get another one for backup. And shout out to you guys again for being here. I really, really appreciate y'all. I really, really do. And as I said, 6:30, we'll be live with the actual press conference from President Joe Biden. We're going to see if he's able to actually be up there and string two words together successfully. All right. We shall see about that. So I think what I want to do, I want to turn that down, and I'm going to show you guys this. This is from the NATO summit. He was trying to introduce Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. That's what he was trying to do. But watch what happened in all actuality. Again, this is at the NATO conference, not at the press conference.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President,
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
This man introduced Zelensky as Putin. He really did that. He really, really did that over at NATO. And like what's this, a DC? Yeah, that's in DC though. So it's not overseas, it's here. He introduced Zelensky as Putin. That's the president. That's what we got to have. That's what they want us to believe can run the country, can run the world. Really? Come now. Yes, he did that. You want to hear it one more time?
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President,
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
So that's the president right now. That is the president right now. And again, that was at some kind of NATO event in Arlington, DC, that metro area. So that might have been from today, I think. So this that little clip right there from that event before this actual press conference, it might give you a little bit of an insight as to what's going to happen tonight. I can't wait. I'm ready. And again, the press conference starts at 6:30. The Big Boy press conference. They literally called it that. Hold on. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, they called it the Big Boy press conference. And thank you guys for joining me on a Thursday for the special edition of ABL Live. If you enjoy my content in general, if you enjoy what you have heard so far, please give this video a thumbs up, like the video, share the video, do all that good stuff. That'll help me out tremendously. Did it get pushed back, man for hire? So you know what? Okay. All right. I got to talk about that. This press conference was supposed to be at 5:30. Then they pushed it back to 6:30. Now it's at 7 o'clock. Is he even going to come out? Is he going to come out at all? Like, what's really going on? Okay. Like, what's actually happening here? Let me see if they changed it over here. They've not changed it on AP. But we'll actually see what's going on. That is absolutely crazy. They really pushed that back for real. The Big Boy press conference. So let me show you what John Kirby and Karine Jean-Pierre said about the actual press conference. Big Boy press conference.
After that, the president will hold a press conference. I guess a Big Boy press conference
Yes.
is what we're calling it, and take some questions from y'all.
This week, President Biden will speak to national labor leaders of AFL-CIO, host the NATO summit to show the unprecedented strength of our alliance, hold a press conference, a big boy press conference, according to Justin Sink from Bloomberg.
Why would you even repeat that? Why would you, like, that's not a flex. Hey, he's having the big boy press conference. That's like saying you put on your big boy pants. You don't need no more diaper. You can put on your big boy pants. It's like, okay, am I 81 or am I 18 months? Like, what's really going on here? Like, what's happening? I don't understand. Again, we got Biden coming out soon, I suppose. They're saying 6:30. Now they're saying 7 o'clock. It was 5:30. So we'll see. I'm over here on AP's YouTube page, and they still have it scheduled for 6:30. So we're going to see in a couple of minutes if it actually posts, if he actually starts talking, or if it's going to be 7 o'clock. Somebody said, did he pass on? I didn't see your name, and pardon me for not catching your name. Somebody asked, did he pass on? I mean, I'm waiting for that at this point. I'm waiting for an announcement that said, he was surrounded by family, all this and that, and the third. I'm waiting for it at this, because we see, like, we've all had elderly family members, and we've seen them kind of decline and pass on. This is just life. We can't live forever. Everybody's born and everybody dies. Some of us are closer to the former rather than the latter, and some is the other way around, if you catch my drift. And a guy like Biden might be in a particular category that's easy to identify without really getting too verbose to the point where they might try to come to my door talking about you're sending threats to the president, all this, that, and the third. No, I'm not sending threats to the president. I think they should just let this man sit on the rocking chair and eat applesauce for the rest of his life. Why's he got to be the president? He's the president right now. Let him go ahead and sit down. Oh, something else I saw. They allegedly, some White House information, internally they ran a poll. They had some kind of head-to-head poll of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. This came from the White House. They did that. I don't know how they did the poll. Maybe they, of course, contracted it out to some companies to do the poll, but they were trying to see what Kamala Harris's chances were against President Trump. I don't know why they had to spend money on the consultant to do that, because you saw what the results were in 2020 when she ran for president against Donald Trump and she polled at 0%. Why do you need to do a study to see how that's going to play out when you already saw it? I don't understand. If Hillary Clinton couldn't beat Trump, how can Kamala Harris beat Trump? It doesn't make any sense. Hillary Clinton, although I'm not a fan of hers, has a lot more political cachet and a lot more history. Plus, she was Secretary of State and she couldn't beat Trump. She got stomped in the wine, although she had double the money. So if Hillary couldn't get over the hill, a white lady, how is this nondescript random race lady with no political acumen, with no real experience, nobody likes her, fake personality, how is that really going to go over with Americans, regardless of what color they are? Because let's be clear, the only reason why Joe Biden became the president is because of the black community in South Carolina. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit of a notice here. It just says Biden expected to speak soon. So it was supposed to be, like I said, it was supposed to be at 6:30, and now they're talking about 7 o'clock. So as soon as they're ready, I'll be ready. Listen, as soon as they're ready, I'll be ready. All right. But like I said, I'm right here. I got it on my screen. So I'm just waiting for them. All right. Thank you, Evangelist B. I appreciate you for your very kind words. All right. So, yeah, I think they're pretty much waiting on Biden to go night, go to the upper room. And then they're going to just do the bait and switch. Okay, you voted for Joe Biden. But look, 2 months into his presidency, maybe even before the inauguration in January, we're just going to put Kamala Harris right there. And don't worry about it. It's a complicated process. Just sit at home and eat your big greasy sandwich and watch your TV and you'll be all right. That's kind of how they're trying to play it right now. And I think that's disrespectful to hardworking Americans who actually want the person they voted for to serve in office, rather than just keeling over and kicking the bucket after 2 months post election. That's crazy. That's totally crazy. Yeah, real bro. I'm in Eastern time zone, Jim Adams. I'm waiting on them. I'm on time. They said 6:30, but now they're trying to say it's 7 o'clock Eastern. First, it was actually, I think, at least 2 time changes. First, I think it was 5:30. Then it became 6:30. Now it's 7 o'clock. So I don't know. I mean, and my thing is, okay, what is Joe Biden doing that's so important, that has him so busy right now? Is he going to step down on TV? You think so? I cannot pronounce your name. I'm going to just say English. Do you think he's going to step down for real on television? That'd be crazy. And you know what? What I said on Twitter was, if he actually just keels over for whatever the reason, that would be the craziest live stream ever. I've never seen that before. A president dying in office. I'm not saying I want to see that. Federale is listening, but I've never seen that before. What would the reaction be? Would there be any kind of civil unrest? Would there be protests? I don't think there should be protests for something like that. I mean, it ain't like nobody did anything to him. He's just 1,000 years old and everybody saw it coming. You know, if you see somebody falling, like they trip over a rock and they're falling, you see the whole thing happening. You know they're about to fall. They've not fallen yet, but they are in the process of falling. Okay, some cartoon type stuff. Feet up in the air, arms, windmilling. They can't catch their balance. They're going to fall. That's what's happening right now to Joe Biden. Every time we see him, he gets closer and closer to the ground. And it's only a matter of time before he falls. I just hope that it's not while he's in office. I hope he's able just to go home for a little bit and then just peacefully go to the next stage of his life from there. Like, didn't John McCain do that? I think John McCain was in office way too long, and we all saw that it was pretty much over. And then I think he might have been out of office, and then he died. Same thing with Dianne Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein was looking crazy, like the crypt keeper. She looked like a fresh bag of bones. Awful. Went to the hospital, came back in the wheelchair, like really scrunched up. I'm like, man, this is crazy. This is absolutely nuts, man. Let her stay home. I understand the thirst and the lust for power intoxicates people, but good night. I mean, it's over. And then, of course, she died. It's like, well, you don't say. What was going to be the next course of action? She was going to just miraculously start running marathons or something at the ripe old age of, 95, however old she was? Come on, man. It's crazy. It's ridiculous, man. This is senior abuse going on a widespread scale. You got Maxine Waters in there, not knowing what's going on with her wig on TV. Mitch McConnell at the podium, freezing up. Joe Biden talking about Vladimir Zelensky. It's really Vladimir Putin. I mean, let these people rest. Some say that term limits shouldn't really be a thing. I mean, look, term limits, we could talk about that. We do have term limits in this country, depending upon what you want to do. But we could talk about term limits, but also how about cognitive function test? How about that? If we can't get term limits, at least have serious, non-biased, non-political cognitive function tests. That would be something I would compromise on. All right, we don't got to have time for that. I was trying to just turn the music on so I could hear when the debate started, the press conference started, but they're just playing random elevator music. I don't got no time for that. Okay, but I wanted to show you guys, if you're just now coming in, shout out to you. I appreciate you. The press conference was scheduled for 6:30. Well, actually, first it was scheduled for 5:30, if I'm not mistaken. Then it was rescheduled for 6:30. Then it became 7 o'clock. So we're waiting on the actual press conference from President Joe Biden, the so-called big boy press conference, to begin. Now, if you guys did not catch this clip from earlier of Joe Biden calling Zelensky Putin, I'll play that a couple more times for you guys, and then we're going to get back to waiting.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Now, this was from today in D.C. This is not the press conference you're going to see right now. This is from an event earlier today in D.C. I think some kind of NATO event, and Zelensky was there. He introduced him as President Putin of Russia. He did that. He really did that.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
I mean, that's crazy. That's totally crazy. This was, again, from today. Earlier today, during some kind of NATO event, the caption says, watch as President Joe Biden accidentally introduced Ukraine's Zelensky as President Putin as he handed over the microphone to him, causing gasps at the NATO summit before correcting himself. Gasping. Yeah, he's only like 3 foot tall, for sure. He's about the size of a couple of crates stacked up, a couple of milk crates, 2 milk crates. That's Zelensky. Shout out to the 2 milk crate crew. But yeah, and if you're just now coming in, thank you for being here. I appreciate you for joining. We're going to be streaming live as soon as Biden comes out. It was scheduled for 5:30 at first. Then they changed it to 6:30. And now they're trying to say 7 o'clock. So as soon as they're ready, we'll be right here waiting. So shout out to y'all. This is the Big Boy press conference. This press conference is the one that they say is going to help change the trajectory of his campaign. I don't think so. The debate was enough to kill any kind of momentum you may have had. It was enough. There's no more momentum to happen. So that ain't really going to be what it is. All right. Now, I think what was going on, he had an event about Ukraine right before this. So maybe that got pushed back. I don't know what's going on. Because I'm on the White House's page, and they posted the event about an hour ago. So maybe he was doing that, and he's trying to just, I don't know, maybe they got to just inject him with something. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. Yeah, but the President Putin thing was totally crazy. So we're waiting here. Shout out to you guys for joining. Build back, Big Boy. Yeah, there you go. Jill can't find Joe at the White House. I bet she's out there looking for him. He done wandered off again. Went through some random door and don't know where he is. Every now and again, you'll watch something on White House lawn or something, and Biden will be done with his remarks and try to find his way back in the building and is doing, he's like a dreidel, just twisting and turning, don't know where he's going. Just all over the place. It's like, sir, you've been living here since 2021. You don't know your way around the actual compound. It shouldn't take that long to get acclimated with your surroundings. But that's Joe Biden at 1,000 years old. Some things like that may be difficult for you to remember. All right. They need to put up them little doggy gates. Yeah, put some of those up. You got a little puppy, and they can't get through the gate. They can't figure out a way to finesse it on the other side. Yeah, put that up, and then he'll be good. He's not going to be doing too much extra stuff. All right. Shout out to you, Armando. I appreciate you. Thank you for enjoying the streams. Donald J. Skywalker says, what odds do you give he will make it through the press conference? He'll make it. That's why they're trying to get him prepared. He'll make it. They're going to put something in his hind parts to make him stay up, but he's going to be stiff as a board. I mean, you might as well watch two 2x4s swaying in the wind out of the back of somebody's truck. It'd be the same thing as watching Joe Biden speak at a podium. That's what it's going to be, but he'll be present enough to be present. I think if he was to keel over, what had happened is he'd be talking and then he start slowing down and then you just fall and then it'll be over. If that happens, man, you got to think these are some really cruel people. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to shed tears for the Biden crime family. Don't misunderstand me. But at a certain point, you're a human being. You got to treat humans properly. Treat humans properly, man. Elderly people that cannot really do a lot for themselves. Vulnerable people with diseases and disabilities. I don't really like that. It just feels really slimy to me. Even if somebody was a bad person in their life, if they have some kind of debilitating disorder and they don't know what's going on and you taking advantage of them, I don't like that. If you're going to punish them for their crimes, then do that. But to just kind of torture somebody for control purposes is just kind of nasty. Now, if you put him in the penitentiary to make big rocks to little rocks for the 10 for the big guy and things of this nature, the cocaine that somebody found in the White House, if it's linked back to Biden in some kind of way, if you're able to get him locked up for something like that, then go ahead. But don't just abuse an elderly person for your own gain. That's crazy. Anybody doing that should get locked up. And then once they get locked up, go ahead and lock Biden up for the 10 for the big guy and all that corruption and stuff. And you know what? He might be better in some kind of club-fed penitentiary, making big rocks to little. Well, at his age, it's going to be like little gravel or something like that. Okay, you can separate sugar cubes. You can separate cubes of sugar and put them in granulated sugar and sell them in Food Line. You could do something like that, little soft labor type situation. You could peel bananas off and make that some kind of banana sauce. I don't know. Do something, but don't be the president anymore. And don't be out here trying to pretend like you have some type of virility, some kind of vim and vigor. You don't got no vim or no vigor. That was funny. A guy on CNN talking about, the interview was to show vim and vigor, but he didn't have any. No, he didn't have any. Okay. Now, Derek, I don't know what's going on with the comments being deleted. I'm just over here talking. I don't know what's happening. And freedom of speech, I mean, you could just say whatever you want and can nobody say anything back and nobody can have any kind of decorum in their space. You know, how would I come to my parents cursing and they're saying, boom, I get a big slap on the face. But mom, freedom of speech. Listen, this ain't how that goes. We got rules in this house. Same thing with anybody's house you go to. You can't just pick your feet up on their couch, Rick James style. You know, you might do that in your basement, but you can't do that at somebody's house. You got these big cowboy boots and you got all kind of manure and everything, hay, insects, and you go to somebody's house with your boots on, traipse through the house, kick your feet up, and do a Rick James style grinding the couch cushion. Moral of the story is you can't do whatever you want wherever you want. You can't say whatever you want wherever you want. All right. That was a tangent, but shout out to you though. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. It's not over already. Naptown, it's not over already. We're still waiting. If you're just now coming in, welcome. The press conference is supposed to be at 6:30, but they pushed it back until 7. So it's not over yet. We're still waiting. Matter of fact, hold on. I got a window to show you right here. This is the actual stream. It says Biden is expected to speak soon. You see it right there? And then it says we'll resume shortly. That's on the Associated Press. So I'm waiting on them. As soon as they start, we're going to start. So you have not missed it. We have plenty of time until they begin. Maybe they're going to start at 7. Maybe it'll be later. All right. Yeah, they are late. Actually, they're very late because they had changed it once before. But for some reason, I don't know. I think what happened was they had another event get pushed back because they did an event with Zelensky right before this. I went to the White House's Twitter and then they posted something an hour ago. So I think at the original start time, they had to squeeze in a different event. So they pushed the press conference back an hour and now another half hour. He was doing the pickleball tournament, man. He ain't hitting no pickleball, wiffle ball, golf ball, tennis ball. He ain't doing nothing. He's not doing a thing. Okay, he might be hitting pills the size of little balls. He might be, consuming those to somehow stay awake, but he's not actually playing no sports. Ain't no way, man. This man playing sports. Come on, man. It's just no way it's gonna happen. This man is pretty much at this point dust. He's a bowl of dust, a bowl of jelly. Nah. But like I said, should just leave that man alone and let him go do something else. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. But yeah, and again, we're just waiting. Yes, he did stuff. He called Zelensky Putin. That was a crazy moment. Vlad, is he maintaining it? What is he maintaining? Maintaining his Mr. Burns, what they call it? What the cool kids say? His Mr. Burns aesthetic. Ain't that what y'all say? This is the Simpsons. This is the 90s aesthetic. Here go old man shaking the fist at cloud. It is what it is. He's having a jelly right now. Oh man, look. The applesauce is straight out the container. Straight out the fridge. It's nice and crisp with the right consistency. Oh man, look, the applesauce, the Jello, all of that is going to be rocking. My. Yeah. Matter of fact, when I get to be old, I look forward to having soft food like that. Give me some. If I could eat Jello and stuff like that, yeah, let's go ahead and get it rocking. I've not had Jello in years, but Jello, that was my jam. And when I get to be 1,000 years old like Joe Biden, I'll be eating plenty of it. Okay, I'll be up there with the pants up to my collarbone. Okay, we got some movement. We got some suits hiding behind flags and things like this. Might be some interns or something like that. Okay, are you hiding, sir? I can see you. Like you're trying to hide behind a tree. Get out from behind that flag. Is he going to be behind the flag the whole time? That's crazy. I see your fist. All right. Hopefully, it's just doing some prep, just trying to get the flags positioned properly. Yeah, just trying to do a little bit of prep, getting everything prepared. All right. Biden is not on stage yet. We just got some handlers handling some business. All right. Hopefully, they do something to make sure this man does not fall down on the ground. Oh, no, we ain't clicking away. We're not clicking away, CM, because the thing about it is they might play that game in the past where they hope we get bored and click away and don't watch it. But social media, the highlights from the debate, the press conference, are going to be up immediately. The press conference highlights and the full press conference itself will be available instantly as soon as it's over with, and live and on multiple channels. And you're going to have guys commenting on it, so you can't escape it. So when you promote something like this, you got to show up and you got to show out. Unfortunately for Joe Biden, he did not show up and show out, as the cool kids say, during the debate. So now he's got to come to this big boy press conference. He's got to come to this big boy press conference and really deliver. And if he doesn't, it's going to be really bad for him because he's already losing in the polls. Trump, it was like a double whammy. Trump got convicted in New York, and that was a crazy windfall of cash. What they said, it was a bonanza of cash, one of the biggest ever into any campaign in history. And then you have the debate that happened, which made Biden look like exactly what it is, which is pretty much deceased. So he's down. He's not doing very well. In subsequent public appearances since the debate, he's not looked well. So now we're having the Big Boy press conference. NERN says, any real questions, ABL? You know what? That's a great question. There should be some real questions because they're framing this as a Big Boy press. I'm not making that up either. Okay, who's this guy? What's he about to say? Probably just somebody trying to test the system or something. Okay, but it's saying it's a Big Boy press conference. So the way they're marketing it, to me, makes it sound like he's going to answer some real questions, Big Boy style, rather than what he normally gets, which is softball questions at best. Softball pre-picked. Okay, I got to pick Susan Johnson from Associated Press. Okay. Stuff like that goes on. It's like, man, ain't nobody got no time for that. Nobody has time for that at all. So hopefully we don't get any of that type of nonsense. All right. Shout out to Carlos Boozer up here working in the White House. That's crazy. Big up to you, sir. I'm glad you found a hobby to do post-ball. But again, the actual press conference was slated to begin at 6:30. Well, actually, first it was 5:30. Then they changed it to 6:30. And now it's supposed to be 7 o'clock. So we got about 9 minutes until he is supposed to begin. And we're just sitting here waiting. Shout out to you guys for watching. I really, really appreciate y'all. If you enjoy my channel, if you enjoy the content in general, please give the video a thumbs up. Like the video, share the video, do all that good stuff. That'll help me out tremendously. All right. Is he napping now? Is he asleep? Let's see if there's any other updates. If they're going to talk about, 7:30 or something like that. But I don't think that's going to happen. All right, we'll see. I'm just waiting here with you guys, and as soon as they get rocking, I'll be right there rocking with you. All right. And again, this press conference is supposed to be the big one. They've really been marketing this. So he better be really, really good out here. If he's any kind of way half-stepping, any kind of way saying things that are crazy, any kind of way sounding foolish, it's going to get magnified. All right? It is going to get magnified. All right, so if you like what you're hearing so far, y'all know what to do. Please give the video a thumbs up. Like the video, share the video, do all that good stuff. That will help me out tremendously. All right, so where we at here? I'm gonna read some of the comments for you guys. Okay. Says, coming up next, President of the United States press conference. I got the sound on. It's elevator music. All right, so we're waiting. We are waiting. And shout out to you guys for the super chats and everything. I really, really appreciate you. I really, really do. I made a boom boom. That's hilarious. So this is going to be the White House press corps asking him questions at a nearby facility by the White House, but not in the White House itself. Oh, they definitely juicing them up, XD Garbanzo. Yeah, they juicing them up. Whatever kind of concoction, hey, it'd be a needle this big. They put it right in his hind parts. Okay, Mr. Biden, you know what you got to do? Here comes the airplane, right in his hind parts. Whatever kind of concoction they're going to do, it's going to keep him afloat for a certain period of time. And as soon as it wears off, he's done. Right after this, he's going straight to bed. Immediately, they're going to pull a bed up on wheels and let him lie on it and wheel him away. I was watching the movie where that kind of thing was going on. Like, wasn't that what was happening in Prometheus? They had this really old man on the thing with him, trying to find immortality, and only to get deleted by one of the architects or whatever those were. That was a great film, by the way. Love Prometheus. Anything sci-fi like that with some kind of intellectualism in it, count me in. Interstellar, another good one. Matthew McConaughey, a vintage Matthew McConaughey performance. Loved it. But again, we are waiting for the press conference to begin. It was supposed to be at 5:30 at first. Then they pushed it back to 6:30. Now it's 7 o'clock. So we're just waiting on the actual film to start. And if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoy my channel, if you just want to support me, go ahead and get the video a thumbs up. Like the video, share the video, do all that good stuff. That'll help me out tremendously. All right. So we're just waiting. Yeah, shout out to Peter Ducey. That's right, Jewish Alliance for the First Amendment. Prometheus was the S. Absolutely, I agree with you, 100%. All the alien movies are great. I agree. Interstellar, awesome. Absolutely. Jamie says, ABL, would Lee Zeldin make a good vice president? That's actually not a bad idea. But Lee Zeldin might be a little bit too extroverted for Trump. But maybe not. He might kind of be, I'm not saying he's like as extroverted as Trump is. He's not so loud like Trump is, but he's more of he's recognizable voice. You pretty much, I don't know. He might need somebody that's less known, like a Doug Burgum. Like, that's why they keep saying Doug Burgum, because Doug Burgum is a solid person that's not really talking a whole lot on the media. He just does his job out there in North Dakota. So that might be a good person to have as the vice president, to be the straight man to Trump's funny man. Okay, that might make sense. Same kind of way, the same role that Mike Pence played. You're gonna have a guy like Doug Burgum play. JD Vance, I'm not quite sure I like him too much. He's not a bad person, but I'm not quite sure. It's a little something about him is a little different. I like Ben Carson, but that's not gonna happen. Tulsi Gabbard. I don't like Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is a cultist. My pick for VP would be either Doug Burgum or Kristi Noem. But Kristi Noem, unfortunately, had that whole dog incident, which I think was overblown and not really a thing. It's like, okay, you're living on the farm and you got animals, and sometimes animals got to get put down. People don't like for that kind of thing to be carried out by regular civilians. They'd rather you take that dog who's problematic and won't be adoptable to a shelter where they'll put it down. You know, people that talk about Second Amendment and things like this will say that it's inhumane for Kristi Noem to put her dog down for being untrainable. But that same dog will go to PETA, which is the so-called animal rescue place. They fight for animal rights. And then after a certain period of time, the dog could get put down in the shelter. But because you didn't do it, then it doesn't really matter. It's like people that talk about killing animals to eat food. They cry when people go hunting, but then they go to the grocery store and pick up a pack of chicken or beef or fish or whatever. It's like, well, how do you think that pack of chicken or beef or fish got in the produce section? You think it just hopped in there? You think it just shed their skin and it just flew into the pack? No, they had to get deleted. But since you didn't do it, it's okay for you to reap the rewards of weapons on the back end. You see what I'm saying? People in this country at a certain point got to do things that the common man does not want to do. That's why those jobs are there. So it is what it is. Personally, I like Kristi Noem, but I understand why a lot of Americans wouldn't because of the whole dog situation. So it'd probably be Doug Burgum. And I like Vivek, but Vivek is not a proven politician. Doug Burgum has a lot of cachet. Or he might go the Hispanic route and pick a Marco Rubio. But Marco's not really that might not really be a good pick either, but that could be a pick. If you're trying to go the Hispanic route, you're going to go Marco Rubio. Some would say go get Ben Carson or Larry Elder for the black community, but that ain't going to work the same way it'll work with Marco Rubio. More Hispanics will be drawn to Trump with a Rubio pick than blacks will be drawn to Trump with a Larry Elder or Ben Carson pick. That's just the reality of the situation. There's more parity among Hispanics than there is blacks. And I'm trying to do my best to make that not be a thing, but it is what it is. So we're still waiting. Again, the debate, I keep saying debate because that just happened. The press conference, the big boy press conference was supposed to be at 5:30 p.m. It was changed to 6:30 p.m. Now it's 7 p.m. And it's 7 p.m. right now on the dot, and we have no press conference as of yet. So I'm just waiting. I am just waiting, as we all are, and then we're going to get into it. But if you like what you're hearing so far, if you enjoyed the content, y'all know what to do. Please give the video a thumbs up, like the video, share the video, do all that good stuff. That'll help me out tremendously. All right. And shout out to you guys again for being here. I really, really appreciate y'all. Yeah, I didn't like the whole Ann Coulter Vivek situation. That was crazy. Tim Scott, I don't know if Tim Scott is LGBT. I just think Tim Scott is a confirmed bachelor. Just not really, it was weird. They tried to assign him a girlfriend. The same thing they did with Cory Booker. It's like, man, come on. Can we not do that? Let's not try to assign girlfriends so you don't look like you're a weirdo. You know what I mean? Just own it. But I understand why people will look at somebody who is single at a certain age with no kids in a different way. That will make you kind of like not trust them. The same, and it may seem kind of, to some, it may seem like it's just not really a big deal. Superficial, that's what I'm looking for. But others think it's a serious thing. Just like some people think if you're not at least 6 foot tall to be the president, I'm not really trying to vote for you. If the election is between a 5'6" guy like Buttigieg and a 6'3", 6'2" guy like Trump, they're going to vote Trump if it's just based on their appearances. Or they're going to be less likely to come out and vote for the smaller guy. It is what it is. Primaries is like that as well. I liked Ron DeSantis' chance early, but then he had a lot of strikes against him. Kind of awkward socially, not really tall, like 5'9", wearing these weird boots, make himself look taller. Americans don't like that. It is what it is. People could say superficial, and it's not really the criteria you should judge a politician on, but people do it. And the politicians know this. This is why most of your presidents have been above 6 foot tall. The last one who was not 6 foot tall was Jimmy Carter at 5'10". And we see what happened with that presidency. But again, we're waiting. It said 7 o'clock. It's now 7:02. Come on, man. Like, I'm on time. I was on time. So I expect you to be on time, Joe Biden. But again, I think there was an event that got pushed back, and then that pushed everything back. So now the press conference is at 7 o'clock or whenever they're going to start, because now we're past 7 o'clock. It's 7:03. So as soon as they begin, we're ready to roll. All right. Somebody says DeSantis voted against building a border wall. How could you have wanted him to do better? I mean, that's just one thing. I don't know all this whole voting record. There's a lot of things that people do that I don't agree with, but I still vote for them. I mean, Trump was in favor of shutting the country down, at least for a period of time, and I wasn't. Trump was the one talking about go get the vaccine. I didn't want to get it. So now I'm not saying he was trying to mandate it. All I'm saying is just because you may do something I disagree with, that doesn't mean that I turn my back on you because of one or two things. I look at it like this. Who has the most of what I want? You may not be 100% perfect because no person on earth is. But I'm looking at the candidates available. I'm looking at the platforms available. Although I don't agree with 100% of everything, how much do I agree with? Look at the actual glass half full rather than half empty. If I'm looking at Donald Trump and I see 90% of the things that he is for, I'm for, and President Biden, 0%, or let's be fair, let's say 20% of the things that he is for that I'm for, then it's a no-brainer. Why would I wrap my brain about that when obviously one person is better for me than the other, although they're both imperfect as I'm imperfect? Y'all don't hear me though. But we're just waiting. We're waiting for the actual press conference, the big boy press conference to begin. All right. It was supposed to be 5:30. Then it was 6:30. Now it's 7 o'clock. All right. Now it's 7 o'clock. So we're going to see. Now, no jet lag. He was in D.C. The event was like in Arlington. That's right there. So all you got to do is drive, 15 minutes or a helicopter. All right. That's all you got to do. It ain't that far. It's right there. So do you guys think that they're going to replace Biden or that he'll kick the bucket? If he kicks the bucket, how are they going to announce it? Is it going to be like a big shock? Breaking news, he dead. Is it going to be like that? Or is it going to be something soft? A press conference. We Americans, we're so sorry to announce that our president, our beloved president, has passed away. How are they going to do it? It might be a combination of both because you got stuff like TMZ, all these rogue stations. He's dead. More at 8 o'clock. Dumb stuff, right? So I don't look forward to that day. That's why I say he should just stay at the house, eat your applesauce, and go about your business. That's what should happen. That's what should happen. But hey, man, we live in America. Things are different, man. Idiocracy is Idiocracy was a documentary, not a movie. Idiocracy was nonfiction. Okay, hold on. So we got movement, people in the audience. We got the White House press corps, everybody in there. All right, but no Biden as of yet. And we're just waiting. All right, let me turn the music off. Well, the sound is on, but there's some music on, so that's good. Oh, they bring the music back. All right, so we're going to see. I don't see the medical personnel out there. I don't see no bigwigs. I'm just seeing press corps, so that's a good sign. Him downstairs. All right, so we're ready. We're waiting. The teleprompter is right there on stage. You see those little right next to the podium, those two boxes. They have these poles that go up, and the teleprompter is like a sheet of paper almost, but a little bit bigger, maybe like 11 by 17, something like that. Maybe a little bit different, but you're able to see the words on those. So what'll happen is they'll put some of the speech on one prompter, some of it on the other. So when you're looking at it on television, it looks like you're kind of scanning the crowd as you talk organically. That's how I was taught to speak in my speaking classes. You kind of scan the crowd. That's what those teleprompters give you the illusion of. When in reality, you just turning your head to read the screens. All the empty chairs, I don't know. Maybe people have yet to come in. I don't know what's going on. Maybe the room is for a certain capacity, but that's not necessary. People are trying to get to one side of the audience. That's interesting. People are kind of stacked up on the left-hand side, not so much the right. They're on the right-hand side, but they're more toward the front. And there's people on the ground right there on the floor. Those are probably photographers trying to get a good shot directly, at the podium with their camera. Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. Thank you for enjoying the work. I couldn't do it without you. All right. So we got a few more coming in, a few more filling in, and we're just ready for the president to come on out. So they're getting popcorn, coming out in the wheelchair. And that man comes out in the wheelchair, that'd be nuts. That would be totally, absolutely nuts. But hey, man, I've seen stranger things happen before. I have seen stranger things happen before, so I'm not even at all surprised. But if you like what you're hearing so far, y'all please give the video a thumbs up. Like the video, share the video, do all that good stuff. That'll help me out tremendously. All right, so we're just ready and waiting for Biden to come out. We are ready and waiting. And we'll see what kind of condition he's in when he comes out. It's starting to fill up now. It's starting to fill up in here now. So let's see if he comes out to the Big Boy press conference. Let's see. All right. He just called President Zelensky, President Putin, right before this event happened. Probably in that same space. All right. Because there was some kind of NATO event right there. And you see the banner up there and these signs right here, NATO, OTAN. Are they going to switch those out? Is this a NATO conference? What is this? Are we going to declare war on the Russian Federation officially? Like, what is going on? Now, we ain't going to do that. We like to fight proxy wars rather than being men and just going up to them and saying, hey, we want to fight, because they don't want their nuclear fallout. Yeah, they would never declare war directly on a foreign adversary like that has nuclear weapons. That'd be nuclear fallout, what they call mutually assured destruction. Mad. You'd be mad to do something like that. But anyway, we're waiting. We are waiting on this guy to run out, trot out, roll out, get wheelchaired out. I don't know how they're gonna do it. All right, but we're gonna see what's happening in just a little bit. They just got regular stop music playing. It's looking like 7:30 almost now, because again, it was supposed to be at 5:30 at first. That was the initial reported time. But I think they had another meeting that interfered with this time. So now the whole room is full. Maybe they had assigned seats. I don't know what's going on, but now the room is full. Okay, as you can see, full house in there. Not a lot of empty seats. People standing around. A little bit of everything happening. All right, so we're just waiting for the guy to come out, and then as soon as that happens, we'll be in there. We will be in there. But yeah, back to what I was saying about these NATO signs. They should take those down, because are we talking to NATO? Talking to the American people? What's really going on? All right, so put up, you got the American flags. That's good, but take down all this extra, this pomp and circumstance of the NATO event. Take that down. We don't need that in a speech to Americans. All right, just have the American flags and you'll be good to go. We don't need all this extra stuff. All right. And let's see what we got going on. Just a lot of traffic, people moving around. Rebel Lucy says, this looks super scripted. Weird press conference. Yes. All this stuff is scripted. This is an event hall right next or near the White House. It's not even in the White House. Everything is all scripted. I was reading one of these papers. It might have been New York Times. I don't know what it was. And then they were saying the person, it might have been an op-ed. They're talking about this is the most scripted presidency in history. And because everything is scripted. Everything, just like the whole thing about him getting the, let me see. This is on News Nation. It says, Chris Whipple, he's a biographer. Is he writing a biography for Biden? It says a biographer who spent 2 years embedded in the Biden White House calls it the most scripted in modern history and said he was not allowed to interview the president in person, only in written form. Because everything is crafted a certain way to present a narrative that's not correct. It's a false narrative. That's the whole thing that's going on here with the Biden administration. It's all false narratives. It's not really real things that they're talking about. You get into questions in advance so you're able to rehearse the answers. You are only allowing certain questions to be asked so you can prevent from saying some damaging things about yourself. You're not going to allow anybody to ask the president, hey, how long do you have to live? I'm exaggerating, but you understand what I'm saying. Some things they don't want to have anyone ask him because that'd be damaging. And some things they do want to have asked because they feel like that'd be something that helps. All right. Yeah, it's a Truman Show. Hey, Devin, I've been saying that. It's like, that's pretty much where we are right now. We're in the Truman Show all day long. And my question would be, who's watching this? Is there some kind of person? Is there a guy? Like, imagine there's some big neckbeard with a beard full of Cheetos playing a video game, watching all of us do what we do at his behest. That'd be crazy. I'm getting way too deep with that one, so I digress. There goes Lloyd Austin. A lot of elderly people, but it's been like that for a long time in DC. A lot of elderly people running the show. Old men rule, young men fight, that kind of thing. It's a time for a silver alert. Hilarious. Yeah, it might be that time. I'm sure they got some kind of silver alert on him, some kind of little device, an ankle monitor or something like that, so he doesn't run off and go somewhere he shouldn't be. Yeah, if he just wandering, if he's wandering around the White House, not knowing where he's at 2 a.m, well, he ain't gonna be up at 2 a.m. 2 a.m, he's going to be soundly asleep. I wonder what his bed looks like. I'm thinking it's going to be some nurses in there. It's going to be some nurses in there. You know what I mean? Just like, all right, hit the bell if you need something to drink. Yeah, they're gonna put an air tag on them. They're gonna put an air tag right in the bottom of his the horseshoe on the shoe. That it's not even for balance all the way. That's also for tracking. Okay, we're just waiting. We got random stop music playing. We're trying to get the stage looking right, making sure everything is functioning properly, getting the camera angles. I want them to eliminate those NATO signs from the banner because it's nothing but a projection. They can turn it off. They could push the button right now and turn that off. You see the NATO sign right here on the pillar on the left, this brown pillar or whatever that is. That's not even the pillar, it's just like a little box. this brown box, turn that NATO off, turn the NATO sign off right there, and turn it off right there. And this little thing in the center, this little circular light board, turn it off right there. Yeah, that should be what we do, and just have the American flags in the background. But I'm sure when they film, it'll probably just be below the flags in that area because they're going to pretty much zoom in on them. You probably won't even see the teleprompters like that. So you'll just see this area right in the center. So they feel like there's no need to turn off the NATO stuff, although I wish they would. All right. You scaring me, bro, from Jen. Yeah, hey, hopefully he's all right. Like I say, I don't wish no harm on nobody. Hopefully he's all right. So we're going to see when this man comes out. We shall see. Yeah, he's definitely late. Look, I know I've been late before on my live show. I don't be this late. If I'm this late, man, something didn't happen. You be like, man, ABL, you're okay? Is everything all right? Yeah, I never been this late. Again, it was supposed to be at 5:30 originally. Then they changed it to 6:30, and now it's 7:17 Eastern Standard Time. So 5:30 to 6:30 to 7. Now we're 17 minutes past the second reschedule. When is he coming out? I don't know. It feels like theater. Average Joe, well, Average Jane, pardon me. Average Jane, it definitely is theater. It is. All this right here, all the Biden administration, what they do is theater. To make you think one thing, to make you believe one thing, although that thing is not necessarily true. Now, you've not missed it yet, Thomas. Not at all. We're still waiting. Shout out to you, Neva. What's going on? But we're still waiting. He hadn't come out yet. And shout out to all 4,500 of you in the building. I really, really appreciate y'all. If you're just now coming in, please like the video, share the video, do all the good stuff. That'll help me out tremendously. We are still waiting on Biden to come out. Let me see. Who is that? That's not Ducey right there. Who is that right there sending it up? That looks like I don't know who that is. I forgot his name. I can see his face. I can't think of his name. But anyway, we're waiting on Biden to come out. 5:30 was the first time. Then it got changed to 6:30. Then it got changed to 7. Then it got changed to just wait. We'll be out in a minute. Don't even worry about it. We'll come out as soon as we're ready. It's all good. So now 7:30, is that right, Donald J. Skywalker? See, that's crazy. That's totally nuts. I mean, they're going to make it to the point where he might not even come out. Listen, if he doesn't come out, that's going to be all bad. Because they hyped this thing up. And they say it's going to be a big boy press conference. And then he doesn't come out? Nah, he's got to come out. But if he comes out looking crazy, Weekend at Bernie's, they just trying to hang on to him, it's a mess. Hey, I know I sometimes I talk about old movies. Is Kamala going to come out? Hey, I don't know. But I talk about old movies sometimes, like A Weekend at Bernie's, Idiocracy, although it's not that old, but I guess it is an old movie. If you guys are young and or you've not seen it, you might be a new American, you might be a recent citizen, first generation, whatever it is, you got to watch some of these movies. Weekend at Bernie's is very good because that's kind of what's going on right here. And also Idiocracy, you got to watch that. It's a lot of movies about culture in America. Falling Down is another one. It's a lot of movies about culture in America that if you watch them, you'll kind of understand what's going on. Of course, movies are generally fiction unless based on the true story. But a lot of the tropes you see in these films can be found in modern society today. And when they kind of exaggerate it to the extreme, that gives you a lot of the extremists we have in society right now. That's kind of where we're at. Another example of this is Joanna Man. I speak about that quite frequently. This is a movie in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, about a male basketball player who was very good in the professional league with the men, but he got in trouble and then he got cut from the team and all his money dried up and they were taking his possessions and everything else. So he was like, hey, you know what? I have an idea. Why don't I put on a wig and behave as a woman and go play with the women's league? And of course, he goes over there and dominates. Now we're seeing that kind of thing play out. I never in my life thought I would see men and women competing in sports like MMA. Never did I see myself looking at a video of a man beating up a woman and it was okay. I never thought I would see that before in my life. I'm like, really? This is a man dressed as a woman, but 100%, you know, we got XY chromosomes, we got twig and berries, we got the whole 9 yards. All right. We got 5 o'clock shadow, everything. This dude is hammer fisting the woman. I'm like, this is crazy, man. Cause somebody called the police on this guy. But again, when you watch some of these movies, it gives you a window into American culture. If you're not necessarily familiar, or if you're a very young person, some things you think are new are not new at all. But again, we're still waiting here for Biden to come out. We are still waiting. They're playing random music, all kind of stuff. And I think somebody said in the chat that it's been pushed back to 7:30. So we're now at 7:22. So I guess we have 8 minutes until lunch. And I would not be surprised if he didn't come out. If he decided, you know what, I ain't going to do it, I'm about to go to bed, that'd be crazy. That would be crazy. So look, something from CBS, breaking news right now. 4 Democratic sources with knowledge tell CBS News that they expect dozens of Democratic lawmakers over the next 48 hours to issue statements calling for President Biden to step out of the race. Okay. So now we're facing the mutiny in the Democratic Party. How is that going to play out? You can't get rid of this guy at the 0 hour, because if you do that, it's impossible for the person who replaces him to win. It's impossible. But again, I'm not trying to get nobody no tips and tricks and things of this nature. If you want to lose and go ahead, it's fine. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to get in the way of the Democratic Party losing the election. That's fine. I say go ahead. But if I was on their team, I would say you can't do it. You shouldn't have put him in the White House at all. He was doing the exact same thing he's doing now in 2020. It just looks worse now. But we all saw it before 2020. We were calling him Sleepy Joe back then. So now all of a sudden in the 0 hour, you want to get rid of the guy? How is that going to help you? How is it going to help? You're going to lose. But again, that's fine. That's a weight off of my shoulders. That's a relief for me. I don't got to worry about nobody. And President Trump and the team, all they got to do right now is push the pedal to the metal. The campaigning will be easy. They put this old man out there who they knew was in dire straits. They knew he was pretty much at the end of his life. And if he dies, oh my God, if he dies during this time before the election, oh my God, like it'd be over. Even if by the time he kicks the bucket, you replace him, it don't even matter, because they knew that was going to happen. They saw that coming, and they still had him in the office running the country, but not running the country, basically being helped by all these aides and whatnot on the outside. So, yeah, If they replace him, it's over. But actually, you know what? It's over now. There's nothing that can be done. You might as well just roll with him. I mean, you might as well, because it won't help you to make a change right now. Because who you really should put in there is Gavin Newsom. You should not put Kamala Harris in there. Nobody likes her. The black community didn't like her because when she ran in 2020, she polled at 0%. The black community preferred Joe Biden over Kamala Harris because they knew Joe Biden from the Barack Obama administration, and they didn't know Kamala Harris. And she was a cop. They don't like cops. So what are you going to do? Like, I don't know, man. You were Merrick Garland in California. Now you're talking about, oh, I'm part of the community. When you were really raised by your Indian mom in Montreal, Canada, speaking French and things like this, man, come on. Like, the community doesn't like her. They can't relate to her. America doesn't like her. They can't relate to her. And she's a woman. Look, like I said earlier, if Hillary Clinton couldn't win the presidency in 2016 or in 2008 over the black guy, how you think Kamala Harris is going to do against Trump? Kamala Harris already got beat by Trump, stomped out in the primaries. There's no way, Pete Buttigieg did better than Kamala Harris in the primaries in 2020. Let's not forget that. All right, we're still waiting here. But Kamala Harris is the same thing as running Joe Biden, or worse. You'll get the same result. The smart choice would be Gavin Newsom, but they should have done that in 2020, but they didn't. They just, they're just dumb like that. They were able to succeed in getting him in office due to some unscrupulous practices in certain states. Now that those things are over, oh, here we go.
Hey, buddy. Thank you. Please be seated. Well, good evening. We just concluded this year's NATO summit, and the consensus among the members was it was a great success. It was especially momentous because it represented the 75th year of the most important military defense alliance in the world's history of the world. We should never forget that NATO grew out of the wreckage of World War II, the most destructive war in history. The idea was to create an alliance of free and democratic nations that would commit themselves to a compact of collective defense. Standing together, they knew we'd all be safer. An attack on one would be treated as an attack on all. And it's worked because a would-be aggressor knows if they attack one of us, they'll be attacked by all of us. Sending that message is the best way to deter aggression and prevent wars in the first place. For those who thought NATO's time had passed, they got a rude awakening when Putin invaded Ukraine. Some of the oldest and deepest fears in Europe roared back to life because once again, a murderous madman was on the march. But this time, no one cowered in appeasement, especially the United States. We collected intelligence that Russia was planning to invade Ukraine months before the invasion. I directed the intelligence community to be a significant amount of intelligence to be declassified so I could start building an international coalition to oppose the invasion. Then in February, some of you remember, I warned the world that the invasion was imminent. I rallied a coalition of 50 nations from Europe to Asia to help Ukraine defend itself. Many foreign policy experts thought as Putin amassed Russian forces just 100 miles north of Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, but Putin thought it was the mother home of Russia. The capital would fall in less than a week. But the Ukrainian people, backed by a coalition to help build, stopped them. Today, Kyiv still stands, and NATO stands stronger than it has ever been. During the week of this summit, several heads of states made it a point in their statements to thank the United States and to thank me personally for all that NATO has achieved. NATO is not only stronger, NATO is bigger because we led the charge to bring in Finland and Sweden into the alliance, and it makes a gigantic difference. Excuse me. Meanwhile, my predecessor has made it clear he has no commitment to NATO. He's made it clear that he would feel no obligation to honor Article 5. He's already told Putin, and I quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." In fact, the day after Putin invaded Ukraine, here's what he said. It was genius. It was wonderful. Some of you forgot that, but that's exactly what he said. But I made it clear a strong NATO is essential to American security. And I believe the obligation of Article 5 is sacred. And I would remind all Americans, Article 5 is invoked only once in NATO's long history, and that was to defend America after 9/11. I made it clear that I will not bow down to Putin. I will not walk away from Ukraine. I will keep NATO strong. That's exactly what we did, and exactly what we'll continue to do. Now, the future of American policy is up to the American people. This is much more than the political question. It's more than that. It's a national security issue. Don't reduce this to the usual testament that people talk about, issues of being a political campaign. It's far too important. It's about the world we live in for decades to come. Every American must ask herself or himself, is the world safer with NATO? Are you safer? Is your family safer? I believe the American people know. The answer to all those questions is yes. And I believe the American people understand that America is stronger because of our alliances. I believe the American consensus from Truman to Reagan to me still holds today. America cannot retreat from the world. We must lead the world. We're an indispensable nation, as Madeleine Albright wrote. Now let me turn to three other key issues. Just this morning, we had a great economic report showing inflation is down. Overall prices fell last month. Core inflation is the lowest it's been in 3 years. Prices are falling for cars, appliances, and airfares. Grocery prices have fallen since the start of the year. We're going to keep working to take down corporate greed to bring those prices down further. Meanwhile, Trump's calling for a 10% tariff on everything Americans buy, including food from overseas, vegetables, and other necessities. And economists tell us that would cost the average American working family another $2,500 a year. It's a tax of $2,500 a year. Second, our efforts to secure the border, southern border, is working. After Trump killed the bipartisan effort to secure the border, Republicans and Democrats had worked on, because he thought it would benefit me and make him a loser, Republicans walked away. So I took executive action last month. As a consequence, working with Mexico, border encounters have gone down over 50%. The current level is lower today than when Trump left office. Third, for months, the United States has been working to secure a ceasefire in Gaza, to bring the hostages home, to create a path for peace and stability in the Middle East. 6 weeks ago, I laid out a detailed plan in writing. It was endorsed by the UN Security Council, the G7. That framework is now agreed on by both Israel and Hamas. So I sent my team to the region to hammer out the details. These are difficult, complex issues. There's still gaps to close, but we're making progress. The trend is positive, and I'm determined to get this deal done and bring an end to this war, which should end now. Let me conclude where I began. We're the United States of America. We are the indispensable nation. Our leadership matters. Our partnerships matter. This moment matters. We must rise to meet it. With that, I'll take your questions. I've been given a list of people to call on here.
Here we go with the dumb stuff.
Reuters, Jeff Mason.
Mr. President, your political future has hung over the NATO summit a little bit this week. Speaker Pelosi made a point of suggesting that your decision on whether to stay in the race was still open. George Clooney and a handful of lawmakers have called on you to step aside. Reuters is reporting tonight that UAW leadership is concerned about your ability to win.
UAW just endorsed me, but go ahead.
Thank you. My question for you is, how are you incorporating these developments into your decision to stay? And separately, what concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there. Number one, the fact is that the consideration is that I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again. Secondly, the idea, I served in the Senate a long time. The idea that senators and congressmen running for office worry about the ticket is not unusual. And I might add, there are at least 5 presidents running or incumbent presidents who had lower numbers than I have now, later in the campaign.
What
So
numbers?
there's a long way to go in this campaign. And so I'm just going to keep moving. And because, look, I got more work to do. We've got more work to finish. There's so much, we've made so much progress. Think about it. Think about where we are economically relative to the rest of the world. Name me a world leader who wouldn't want to trade places with our economy. We've created over 800,000 manufacturing jobs, 1.5 million jobs. So things are moving. We got more to go. Working class people still need help. Corporate greed is still at large. Their prices, the corporate profits have doubled since the pandemic. They're coming down. And so I'm optimistic about where things are going. Danny Kemp, AFP.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you about you mixed up Presidents Zelensky and Putin earlier today. And you now have sort of your key allies, including the British Prime Minister, the President of France, and the German Chancellor having to step in and make excuses for you on that. And officials here are saying off the record that your decline has become noticeable. Hasn't this now, frankly, become damaging for America's standing in the world? Thank you.
Did you see any damage to our standing in my leading this conference? Have you seen a more successful conference? What do you think? And the Putin piece, I was talking about Putin, and I said, and now, at the very end, I said, Putin. I said, oh, no, I'm sorry, Zelensky. And then I added 5 other names. Look, guys, the idea anybody suggests that we haven't had an incredibly successful conference. How many times did you hear in that conference, I don't know if it sounds too self-serving, but other leaders, heads of state, in thanking me, saying the reason we're together is because of Biden, because Biden did the following. Look, folks, this is, well, anyway.
It's what?
I thought it was the most successful conference I've attended in a long time, and find me a world leader who didn't think it was. Next one, Nancy Cordes, CBS.
Thank you, Mr. President. You mentioned other instances in history where presidents have faced a challenge, but what makes this moment in history so unique is that it is not your enemies who are calling on you to reconsider your decision to stay in the race. It's your friends, supporters, people who think you've done a great job over the past 4 years. Have you spent time thinking about what it would mean for your legacy, which you've worked decades to build, if you stay in the race, despite the concerns that voters say they have, and you lose to someone who you yourself have argued is unfit to return to the Oval Office?
Well, look, I'm not in this for my legacy. I'm in this to complete the job I started. As you recall, understandably, many of you and many economists thought my initial initiatives that I put forward, can't do that, it's going to cause inflation, things are going to skyrocket, the debt's going to go up. What are you hearing now from mainstream economists? 16 economic Nobel laureates said I've done a hell of a job. That under my plans so far and what's going to happen in the future if I've reelected, that things are going to get much better. Our economy is growing. I was determined when I got elected to stop the trickle-down economic theory, that if the wealthy did very well, everybody else would do well. My dad was a well-read, decent guy. I don't remember much trickling down on his kitchen table. Middle-class people and working-class people need help. And so what happened is I decided to was able to implement as president what I believed when I was a senator. And that is that the way to build this economy is from the middle out and the bottom up. That way we grow the economy. And the wealthy still do very well. They do fine. And guess what? Find me an economist, a mainstream economist who said we haven't done well. What have we not done that isn't working right now? And so we got more to do, though. We got to finish the job. And by the way, I come from the corporate state of the world. Delaware has more corporations registered in Delaware than every other state in the nation combined. I'm not anti-corporate. But corporate profits have doubled since the pandemic, doubled. It's time things get back in order a little bit. It's time, for example, if I'm reelected, we're going to make sure that rents are kept at 5% increase. Corporate rents for apartments and the like and homes are limited to 5%. We're going to make a lot of changes that I've been talking about because we're going to continue to grow this economy. And by the way, I know, remember how I got so roundly criticized for being so pro-union, not labor, union. Well, guess what? I've been the most pro-union labor president in history. Not a joke. And guess what? We had the Treasury Department do a study. When unions do better, everybody does better. Everybody does better. And we talk about how, for example, remember when we talked about getting the computer chip industry back in the United States? Used to be 40% of the industry. We invented the chip. 40% of the industry was in the United States. And former presidents decided that the best way to do it is find the cheapest labor in the world, send the product over there, and import what the product was. And so what did I do? I was told not to go over to to Asia, including Europe, but Asia. And I remember going to South Korea, convincing them to invest $20 billion in the United States to build computer chip factories. And I asked why when they finally decided to do it. And the answer was because you have the safest economy in the world and you have the best workers in the world. So the whole idea here is we've invested, there's over $50 billion in investment in computer chip manufacturing just coming in the bean. None of you thought that would happen. None of you thought that would happen. But it's happening. It's happening. And it's going to grow economies. All through, and by the way, red states and blue states. Manufacturers as much in red states as blue states. I've made no distinction. So my generic point is that the idea that we can't continue to build and grow the economy, make it fairer. And like I said, from my standpoint, when the middle class does well, that's when the whole economy grows. The poor have a shot, the wealthy do well. But the wealthy got to start paying their taxes.
As a follow-up, sir, you mentioned that your Vice President Kamala Harris would be ready to serve on day one. Can you elaborate on that? What is it about her attributes and her accomplishments over the last 4 years that make her ready to serve on day one if necessary?
First of all, the way she's handled the issue of freedom of women's bodies to have control over their bodies. Secondly, her ability to handle almost any issue on the board. This was a hell of a prosecutor. She was a first-rate person, and in the Senate, she was really good. I wouldn't have picked her unless I thought she was qualified to be president. From the very beginning, I made no bones about that. She is qualified to be president. That's why I picked her. Felicia Schwartz, Financial Times.
Thank you, Mr. President. Presidency is the most straining job in the world, and it's 24/7. How can you say you'll be up for that next year, in 2 years, in 4 years, given the limits you've acknowledged that you have today?
The limits I've acknowledged I have?
There's been reporting that you've acknowledged that you need to go to bed earlier and your evening around 8.
That's not true. Look, what I said was, instead of my every day starting at 7 and going to bed at midnight, it'd be smarter for me to pace myself a little more. And I said, for example, the 8, 7, 6 stuff, instead of starting the fundraiser at 9 o'clock, start at 8 o'clock. People get to go home by 10 o'clock. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, and if you looked at my schedule since I made that stupid mistake in the campaign, in the debate, I mean, my schedule has been full bore. I've done, where's Trump been? Riding around in his golf cart, filling out his scorecard before he hits the ball? I mean, look, he's done virtually nothing. And I have, I don't know how many, don't hold me to it, roughly 20 major events. Some of them with thousands of people showing up. And so I just think it's better. I always have an inclination, whether I was playing sports or doing politics, just to keep going, not stop. I just got to just pace myself a little more. Pace myself. And the next debate, I'm not going to be traveling into 15 time zones a week before. Anyway, that's what it was about. That's what it was about. And by the way, even with that, I love my staff, but they add things all the time. At the very end, I'm catching hell from my wife for that. Anyway, I'm sorry. Zeke Miller, Associated Press.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two questions for you. First, on the NATO summit, President Zelensky, in your meeting with him, he pressed you to lift your limitations on the Ukrainian use of American weapons, saying that, in his public remarks afterwards, saying that Ukraine cannot win the war unless those limitations are lifted. Are you reconsidering your position on that? And then secondly, following up on Felicia's question there, leaders of your own party have said that they're not worried about that debate. They're worried about the next bad night and the bad night after that. How can you reassure the American people that you are up to the task and that there won't be more bad nights at a debate stage or somewhere else?
First thing about Zelensky asking for the ability to strike deep into Russia. We've allowed Zelensky to use American weapons in the near term, in the near or abroad, into Russia. Whether or not he should be attacked. For example, should Zelensky, he's not. But if he had the capacity to strike Moscow, strike the Kremlin, would that make sense? It wouldn't. The question is, what's the best use of the weaponry he has, and the weaponry we were getting to him? I've gotten a more long-range capacity, as well as defensive capacity. And so our military is working. I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense and our intelligence people. And we're making a day-to-day basis on what they should and shouldn't go, how far they should go in. That's a logical thing to do. Second question related to
Bad nights, sir. How can you reassure the American people that you won't have more bad nights, whether they be on a debate stage or it's a matter of foreign policy?
Well, I tell you what, the best way to assure them is the way I assure myself. And that is, am I getting the job done? Am I getting the job done? Can you name me somebody who's gotten more major piece of legislation passed in 3.5 years? I created 2,000 jobs this last week. So if I slow down, I can't get the job done. That's a sign that I shouldn't be doing it. But there's no indication of that yet. None. What do we got here? Merrick, Pulaski Radio.
Thank you, Mr. President. How are you?
I'm well.
Are you?
The elections in the US have consequences around the world. You have pretty high standing in Europe. I just asked President Macron about you, and he said we are happy to have him as the President of the United States. But there is a concern. Many people in Poland and across Europe are worried that the former president may win the election. And there's a lot of concern that Donald Trump may weaken NATO, stop supporting Ukraine, or push Ukraine to give up territories to Russia.
They're correct.
And yourself was warning just a few minutes ago about it. So my question is, do you think that Europe will be left on its own if Donald Trump wins the election? And what's your advice to European leaders to prepare for possible US disengagement?
Well, look, I think, how can I say this without sounding too self-serving? I'm not having any of my European allies come up to me and say, Joe, don't run. What I hear them say is, you've got to win. You can't let this guy come forward. He'd be a disaster. It'd be a disaster. I mean, I think he said in one of his rallies, don't hold me to this, recently, where NATO, I just learned about NATO or something to that effect. Foreign policy has never been his strong point. And he seems to have an affinity to people who are authoritarian. That worries, as I tell you from Poland, that worries Europe. That worries Poland. And nobody, including the people of Poland, think that if he wins in Ukraine, he's going to stop in Ukraine, that that's going to be the end of it. And so what I can say is, I think I'm the best qualified person to do the job, to make sure that Ukraine does not fall, that Ukraine succeeds, that the European alliance stays strong. You may recall, no one was talking about Finland joining NATO. I remember talking to Putin right after we got elected in Geneva, and he was talking about what we should do. We couldn't be in Eastern Europe, etc. And I said, you're looking for the Finlandization of Ukraine. I said, you're going to get the NATOization of Finland. And about 4 weeks later, I got a call. That's not true. Probably 5 months later, from the president of Finland, could he come and see me? In my office, and I invited him to the Oval Office. We sat down and talked. He said he wanted to join NATO. Could I help? And I did. It wasn't automatic. And then I got a call from the Swedes. I beg your pardon? And so Finland joined NATO. 800-mile border is a significant, and they were already allies, but they weren't part of NATO. And you heard, I think you heard, maybe, I can't recall whether he said it publicly or in our closed meeting, but he wouldn't mind it being repeated. He said, we decided in Finland, the people of Finland decided they had to be part of NATO. It was in our interest because of the joint ability to be together, to dissuade any attack on Finland. And the same thing with Sweden. It took a lot of selling to some folks, particularly in Turkey and other places, to agree to the expansion. But it expanded. And we're a hell of a lot stronger because of it. We're more secure because of it. And by the way, I was able to get 50 other nations, 50, to support Ukraine. 50. And we're able to bring about a coalition of Europe and Asia, Japan and South Korea. I just met we talked about AUKUS, and we talked about the relationship between Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, the United States. We're making the world safer and stronger because we have to deal with the new arrangement that exists in the world. The Cold War is over. The post-war era is over. What is going to replace it? And I respectfully suggest I have a pretty good idea what that should be. I've convinced a lot of people to follow it, and we're just going to get stronger. David Sanger. Where's it?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Be nice, David.
Mr. President, the NATO declaration that was issued yesterday was very notable because it described China as a decisive enabler of the war in Ukraine for its provision of critical goods to the Russians. That's part of a broader partnership that seems to have cemented in place in the past 2 or 3 years. I think one that you were a little bit doubtful of when we asked you about it some time ago. So I'd be interested to know whether you have a strategy now of trying to interrupt the partnership between China and Russia, and whether or not in a second term you would pursue that, if you could describe that strategy to us. And along the way, could you also tell us whether you think, just to follow up on Felicia's question, that if you were in a room with Vladimir Putin again, the way you were 3 years ago, or with President Xi that a few years from now you will be able to go negotiate with them, handle them one-on-one?
Well, the first part of the question is, we discussed and I raised in the NATO summit, and others raised, the future of China's involvement, what they're going to do, what they're doing with Russia in terms of accommodating, facilitating. They're getting access to additional. They're not supplying weapons themselves. They're supplying mechanisms for them to be able to get weapons. And China's position is basically, and I've spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader has, over 90 hours since being vice president all the way through, for real. And by the way, I handed all my notes. But my point is that Xi believes that China is a large enough market that they can entice any country, including European countries, to invest there in return for commitments from Europe to do A, B, C, or D, or not to do certain things. What's happened is we had a long discussion about what we cannot, you have to make clear, China has to understand that if they are supplying Russia with information and capacity, along with working with North Korea and others to help Russia in armament, that they're not going to benefit economically as a consequence of that by getting the kind of investment they're looking for. And so, for example, we're in a situation where, and we've reestablished direct contact with China after that, remember the balloon, quote unquote, going down, and all of a sudden things came to an end? Well, we set up a new mechanism. There's a direct line between Xi and me, and our military has direct access to one another, and they contact one another when we have problems. The issue is that we have to make sure that Xi understands there's a price to pay for undercutting both the Pacific Basin as well as Europe, and as it relates to Russia and dealing with Ukraine. And so we, for example, if you want to invest in China, as you know this area really well. If you want to invest in China, you have to have a 51% Chinese owner. You have to make sure that you do by their rules, and you don't have the authority, and you have to provide all access to all the data and information you have. There was a while there, as you recall, the last administration and other administrations, where the access to that market was enticing enough to get companies to come in because they had access to over 1 billion people in the market, not 1 billion, but a lot of people in the market. And so they were doing it. But that got curtailed when we started saying we're going to play by the same rules. For example, the idea they don't abide by the international rules related to subsidizing products by the government funding. So guess what? They're not going to be able to export their electric vehicles to the United States without a significant tariff. Others are doing the same thing around the world. But it is a concern. It is a concern that you have both China, North Korea, Russia, Iran, countries that are not necessarily coordinated in the past, looking to figure out how they can have impact.
Do you have a strategy to interrupt that impact?
Yes, I do, but I'm not prepared to talk about the detail of it in public. And I think you'll see that some of our European friends are going to be curtailing their investment in Russia. In China, as long as China continues to have this indirect help to Russia in terms of being able to help their economy as well as help them in, as a consequence of that, their ability to fight in Ukraine. The other thing that we talked a lot about is that, and I raised it, and I didn't hear any. I can't swear that everyone agreed because not everyone got to talk about it. But we need a new industrial policy in the West. For example, we talked about how both the EU as well as NATO has to be able to begin to build their own munition capacity, has to be able to generate their own capacity to provide for weapons and the ability to, it came as a surprise to some of us how we had fallen behind in the West in terms of the ability to construct new material, new weaponry, new everything from vehicles to weapon systems. And so one of the things that came out of this was we're going to be meeting again with a number of my colleagues, my European colleagues, is what do we do to increase the capacity of the West, particularly in Europe and Japan, to be able to generate the kind of ability to produce their own weapon systems. Not just for themselves, but to be able to generate that. It's the same, it's what Russia's trying to figure out. That they went to China and they didn't get the weapons, but then they went to North Korea. But we're going to be in a position where the West is going to become the industrial base for it to be able to, the ability to have all the defensive weapons that we need. That was a discussion as well.
Mr. President, I'm not sure you answered on whether you would be ready to go deal with Putin and Xi 2 or 3 years from now.
I'm ready to deal with them now and 3 years from now. Look, like I said, I'm dealing with Xi right now and direct contact with him. I have no good reason to talk to Putin right now. There's not much that he is prepared to do in terms of accommodating any change in his behavior. And but there isn't any world leader I'm not prepared to deal with. But I understand the generic point is Putin ready to talk? I'm not ready to talk to Putin unless Putin's ready to change his behavior. And the idea, look, Putin's got a problem. First of all, in this war that he is supposedly have won, and by the way, I think, don't hold me to the exact number, but I think that Russia had 17.3% of Ukraine that they've conquered. Now it's 17.4. I mean, in terms of percentage of territory. They've not been very successful. They've caused horrible damage and loss of life, but they've also lost over 350,000 troops, military, killed or wounded. They have over 1 million people, particularly young people with technical capability, leaving Russia because they see no future there. They've got a problem. But what they do have control of is they are very good at controlling and running the public outcry that relates to how they use mechanisms to communicate with people. They lie like hell to the constituencies. They lie like hell about what's going on. And so the idea that we're going to be able to fundamentally change Russia in the near term is not likely. But one thing for certain, if we allow Russia to succeed in Ukraine, they're not stopping in Ukraine. I recommend, I know you know this because you've written about it, read Putin's speech after they moved in, what it was all about in Kyiv. It wasn't about just, anyway, read what his objective is. And anyway, but so I think that I'm prepared to talk to any leader who wants to talk, including if Putin called me and wanted to talk. Last time I talked to Putin was trying to get him to work on an arms control agreement related to nuclear weapons in space. That didn't go very far. So my point is, I'm prepared to talk to anybody, but I don't see any inclination. There is an inclination on the part of the Chinese to keep in contact with me because they're not sure where this all goes. And look what's happened in Asia. We have strengthened the Asian Pacific area more than anyone else has. We just put together with today I asked our NATO allies that we bring on the group from the South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Australia. I already mentioned Australia. And I met twice now, I think, with the 14 leaders.
Please stop this. Please stop this.
And we've slowed down what's going on there. We've slowed down China's reach. But there's a lot of work to do. This is a moving target, and I don't take it lightly. Assam from NPR.
Thank you, Mr. President. Asma Khalid with NPR. I have two questions. Earlier, you spoke about the ceasefire plan between Israel and Hamas. We're now looking at 10 months of war, and I'm curious if there's anything that you feel personally you wish you would have done differently over the course of the war. And then secondly, if I may, I wanted to ask you about your presidential campaign. I remember covering your campaign in 2020, and there was a moment where you referred to yourself as a, quote, bridge candidacy, a transition to a younger generation of leaders. I want to understand what changed.
Two things. Let's go back to when you talked about would I have changed anything that's happening with Israel and the Palestinians and the Palestinian movement. The answer is, as you recall, from the very beginning, I went to Israel, but I also got immediate contact with al-Sisi in Egypt. I met with the King of Jordan. I met with most of the Arab leaders to try to get a consensus going as to what had to be done to deal with getting more aid and food and medicine into the Gaza Strip. And we pushed it really hard. And Israel occasionally was less than cooperative, number one. The Israeli War Cabinet, I've been dealing with Israel since Golda Meir. Some of the reporters around here come here all the time have heard me say this. The first time I met with Golda Meir, I sat across from her at her desk, and her assistant was Rabin sitting next to me. That's how far back I go. I know Israel well, and I support Israel. But this war cabinet is one of the most conservative war cabinets in the history of Israel. And there's no ultimate answer other than a two-state solution here. And so what was able to be done in terms of the plan I put together was it would be a process for a two-state solution. And we get the Arab nations to, particularly from Egypt all the way to Saudi Arabia, to be in a position where they would cooperate in the transition so that they could keep the peace in Gaza without Israeli forces staying in Gaza. The question has been from the beginning, what's the day after in Gaza? And the day after in Gaza has to be, the end of the day after has to be no occupation by Israel on the Gaza Strip, as well as the ability for us to get in and out as rapidly as you can, all that's needed there. I've been disappointed that some of the things that I've put forward have not succeeded as well, like the port we attached from Cyprus. I was hopeful that would be more successful. But that's why when I went to Israel immediately after the massacres that occurred at the hands of Hamas, the one thing I said to the Israelis, and I met with the War Cabinet and with Bibi, don't make the same mistake America made after bin Laden. There's no need to occupy anywhere. Go after the people who did the job. You may recall, I still get criticized for it, but I was totally opposed to the occupation and trying to unite Afghanistan. Once we got bin Laden, we should have moved on, because it was not no one's ever going to unite that country. I've been over every inch of that, not every inch, the entirety from the poppy fields all the way to the north. I said, don't make the same mistake we made. Don't think that's what you should be doing, is doubling down. We'll help you find the bad guys, Sinwar and company. And all this criticism about I wouldn't provide when the weapons they needed. I'm not providing them 2,000-pound bombs. They cannot be used in Gaza or any populated area without causing great human tragedy and damage. But remember what happened when when you had the attack on Israel with rockets and ballistic missiles. I was able to unite the Arab nations as well as Europe, and nothing happened. Nothing got hurt. It sent an incredible lesson to what was going on from the Middle East. So there's a lot of things, in retrospect, I wish I had been able to convince the Israelis to do. But the bottom line is we have a chance now. It's time to end this war. Doesn't mean walk away.
Your transition president, what happened to that?
And if you notice, you know better than most, there is a growing dissatisfaction on the West Bank from the Palestinians about Hamas. Hamas is not popular now. And so there's a lot of moving parts. I just have to keep moving to make sure that we get as much done as we can toward a ceasefire, and get those. And by the way, look at the numbers in Israel. I mean, my numbers are better in Israel than they are here. But then again, they're better than a lot of other people here too. But anyway.
Bridge candidacy in 2020. You referred to yourself as being a bridge candidate for a younger, fresher generation of Democratic leaders, and I wanted to know what changed.
What changed was the gravity of the situation I inherited in terms of the economy, our foreign policy, and domestic division. And I think, I won't put words in anybody's mouth. Most presidential historians give me credit for having accomplished more than most any president since Johnson and maybe before that to get major pieces of legislation passed. And what I realized was my long time in the Senate had equipped me to have the wisdom to know how to deal with the Congress to get things done. We got more major legislation passed that no one thought would happen. And I want to finish it, to get that finished. If tomorrow, if we had a circumstance where there was a lineup and I hadn't inherited what I did and we just moved things along, anyway, it's going to change.
Last question.
Haley Bull, Scripps. Or no, Josh Weingrove, I'm sorry, was the next one. I'll do two more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Many of your colleagues, Democrats on the Hill, are watching tonight as they assess what they want to say about your candidacy. I'm wondering how you're thinking of this right now. It seems like your answer is clear, but they're watching how things go tonight, tomorrow in Michigan, next week in Texas and Nevada. Are you thinking that way about how the next week or two goes would inform you?
Am I using that way, you said?
Are you thinking that way about how the next 2 weeks go? Will that affect your decision, or are you fully determined on running in November as the party's nominee?
I'm determined on running, but I think it's important that I allay fears by let them see me out there. Let me see them out. For the longest time it was, Biden's not prepared to sit with us unscripted. Biden's not prepared to, anyway. And so what I'm doing is, and I've been doing, I think we've done over 20 major events from Wisconsin to North Carolina to demonstrate that I'm going out in the areas where we think we can win, where we can persuade people to move our way, or people are already there. And here, look, the other thing is, we have the most extensive campaign organization of anybody's had in a long, long time. We have well over 1,000 volunteers knocking on doors, making phone calls, making tens of thousands of phone calls. We have headquarters, I forget exactly how many, I want to cite a number and then find out I'm off, but we have scores of headquarters in all the toss-up states. We're organized, we're moving, and that's awful hard to replace in the near term. And so, and here's the other thing. I was in the Senate a long time. Very proud of what I've done in the Senate. I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee for a long time, and I was chairman or ranking member and chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I'm going to be going down to the Johnson Library. Anyway, I'm going to be going around making the case of the things that I think we have to finish and how we can't afford to lose what we've done or backslide on civil rights, civil liberties, women's rights. There's that little button we have. Control guns, not girls. I mean, the idea we're sitting around, this is where Kamala's so good as well. We're sitting around, more children are killed by a bullet than any other cause of death. The United States of America. What the hell are we doing? What are we doing? We got a candidate saying, promise the NRA, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything. You got a Supreme Court that is what you might call the most conservative court in American history. This is ridiculous. There's so much we can do still, and I'm determined to get it done. It's about freedom. And by the way, I'll end this. Well, I'm not going to do that. Haley has to come up too. But
That's crazy.
I remember I made a speech on democracy in Philadelphia at Independence Hall. And I'm not being critical, just observing. The bulk of the press said, what the hell is he talking about that for? Democracy. You did. Democracy's not an issue. Democracy's not an issue.
Yes.
Except the polling data showed 60% of the people knew I was right, thought I was right. I'm not asking you a question. You don't have to answer, obviously. But do you think our democracy is under siege based on this court? Do you think democracy is under siege based on Project 2025? Do you think he means what he says when he says he's going to do away with the civil service, eliminate the Department of Education, make sure, I mean, we've never been here before. And that's the other reason why you say hand off to another generation. I've got to finish this job. I've got to finish this job because there's so much at stake.
We've had some discussions over the past few days with your press secretary about the question of health exams. And you said you take a cognitive test every day in this job. Are you open to taking another physical or test before the election? Governor Whitmer of Michigan, for instance, said it wouldn't hurt to take a test.
Well, look, two things. One, I've taken 3 significant and intense neurological exams by a neurologist. In each case, as recently as February. And they say I'm in good shape, okay? Although I do have a little problem with my left foot because it's not as sensitive because I broke my foot and didn't wear the boot. But I'm good. I'm tested every single day about my neurological capacity, the decisions I make every day. You talk to my staff, all of you talk to my staff. Sometimes my staff talks a lot. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think you have them telling you that all the major ideas we've undertaken haven't been in part initiated by me. I remember when the staff and I said, I'm going to go to South Korea, we're going to get the chip. What are you doing? I'm going to get Japan and Korea back together again after essentially having hostilities toward one another since the end of World War II. I'm going to move and see that we can expand it. You know, the only thing age does is help you with it. Creates a little bit of wisdom if you pay attention.
Sure.
And so the point I'm making is, I think it's important that if the neurologist tells me he thinks I need another exam, and by the way, I've laid every bit of the record out. Hadn't hidden a thing. You ought to ask Trump for his, okay? I laid it all out. And every single day I'm surrounded by good docs. If they think there's a problem, I promise you, or even if they don't think it's a problem, they think I should have a neurological exam again, I'll do it. But no one's suggesting that to me now. And I'll ask you another question. No matter what I did, no one's going to be satisfied. Did you have 7 docs? Did you have 2? Who'd you have? Did you do this? How many times did you? So I am not opposed if my doctors tell me I should have another neurological exam, I'll do it. but that's where I am. Haley Bull, Scripps.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said you're making decisions on a day-to-day basis when it comes to support for Ukraine. Does that mean you have not closed the door on further considering lifting restrictions for U.S.-made weapons inside Russia? And if I may, your convention is coming up where your delegates are pledged to make you the official nominee. If they have second thoughts, are they free to vote their conscience?
Obviously, they're free to do whatever they want, but I get overwhelming support. Overwhelming support. I won, I forget how many votes I won in the primary. Overwhelming. And so tomorrow, if all of a sudden I show up at the convention, everybody says, we want somebody else, that's the democratic process. It's not going to happen.
Even if that means they vote for someone else?
Sure. Look, I'll end this with this. I served in the Senate a long time. I understand the impetus of candidates running for local office and whether they think the top if they can help them or not. In my state of Delaware, which was a very, at least a purple, it was a red state when I started, in terms of we now talk red and blue. I don't recall most of the Democratic presidents winning my state when I was a candidate. The truth of the matter is I understand the self-interest of every candidate. If they think that, running with Biden at the top is going to hurt them, then they're going to run away. I get it. But so far, go and look at the polling data in their states. Look at the in-depth, and by the way, I think you'd all acknowledge, and you're all experts. I'm not being solicitous about the president. You're experts on this stuff. How accurate does anybody think the polls are these days?
Oh my God, come on.
I can give you a series of polls where you have likely voters, me versus Trump, where I win all the time. When the unlikely voters vote, he wins sometimes. The bottom line is all the polling data right now, which I think is premature because the campaign really hasn't even started. I mean, it hadn't started in earnest yet. Most of the time, it doesn't start till after September, after Labor Day. So a lot can happen. But I think I'm the best I believe I'm the best qualified to govern. And I think I'm the best qualified to win. But there are other people who could beat Trump too. But it's awful start from scratch. And, we talk about, money raised. We're not doing bad. We got about $220 million in the bank. We're doing well. So with that, you have any want to follow up on any of that you just asked me?
Please.
Yes. You earlier explained confidence in your vice president.
Yes.
If your team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump, would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that.
Mr. President,
okay.
This ends tonight's press conference. Thanks, everybody. This concludes.
Respectfully, earlier you misspoke in your opening answer. You referred to Vice President Harris as Vice President Trump. Right now, Donald Trump is using that to mock your age and your memory. How do you combat that criticism from tonight?
Listen to him.
This concludes tonight's press conference. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everyone.
All right, so that is the end of the press conference. Very, very scripted. He had a list of people that he had to call from, specific names and their newspaper that they represent. He called on them, and I'm willing to bet that all those questions and answers were already predetermined. That's what I want to bet, because if not, then why would you have a list to call from specifically? That doesn't make any sense if it was not already predetermined. So that is the press conference. That was about an hour. again, he was supposed to come on at 5:30 originally. Then they changed it to 6:30. Then they changed it to 7, but he didn't come out until about 7:28 Eastern. So now we're at about 8:27. So that was about an hour. Most of the time was him answering questions from a predetermined list. And he had a speech at the beginning that was just him reading the teleprompter, just reading. So he didn't sound that bad, although he sounded bad still. See, one thing about Biden is that he sounded very bad at the debate, like he's about to keel over. So any kind of improvement from that may sound good to some people, but ultimately, he still does not sound good. Even though he sounds better than the debate, he still sounds bad. You see what I'm saying? So that's pretty much that. Now, we still got quite a few super chats and everything. Yeah, he's going right back to bed. He's going right in the, hey, he's going like this. He's going night-night. He's going to be up under them covers immediately, okay? Taking that suit off like a tracksuit and throw it over there in the corner. Let Jill pick it up, put it in the hamper, and then he'll get some applesauce, an Ensure, a nice warm blankie, and go right to bed. That's what's going to happen right now. Yeah, straight to bed. You know it immediately. Oh, man, that was hard to listen to because the thing about it is it was just a bunch of rambling and just talking. I feel like some people feel like he might have done. Some are going to say that he did well tonight because he was able to speak and make some sense, but he was still having memory lapses. He still said a few things that weren't correct. I have a few things that I can play right here because we're going to do it in live action. And I may wind up doing a video about this. Okay, so the whole President Putin thing. And then what else was it? It was actually quite a few things, if I can get everything that I want to get to. Okay, the whole commander-in-chief nonsense, that was crazy. Yeah, there was a whole lot going on here. The Big Boy press conference. Yeah, there's a lot happening. Let me pull some of these up that he said during the actual. Yeah, I'm following the orders of my commander-in-chief. That was one. Yeah, there's a whole lot. Okay, so let me show some of this here. And if you guys enjoyed what you heard tonight, at least for me, maybe not necessarily so much from Biden, but please give the video a thumbs up, like the video, share the video, do all that good stuff. That'll help me out tremendously. Okay, so we got a few things I want to put up right here. All right, cool. So here we go. First things first is the event before this one. And I think he was late for this event. I don't think Georgia Maloney likes Trump, Biden too much. I don't think she likes Biden too much because I'm going to show you something right here. He was late apparently for the event before this. Okay. I got an article right quick for you guys. It says Italian PM Giorgia Meloni rolls eyes, checks imaginary watch, waiting for Biden's arrival at NATO summit. This was today. This was published at about 2:30 Eastern. Okay. And you can see her right there. She's not very pleased about his, showing up late. Of course not. You got world leaders. They're not very happy about you showing up late. So that's Giorgia Meloni, the Italian prime minister, rolling her eyes because Biden was late to the first event, making faces and everything else. Okay. So yeah. And that picture right there is from the July G7, but that's her earlier today. Like, hey man, where are you at? What's going on? So shout out to Giorgia Meloni. I may use that article later. Now, this is him at that particular event calling President Vladimir Zelensky from Ukraine Vladimir Putin. Check it out.
To the president of
Start from the top.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
He called this man President Zelensky. He really did that. He really, really, really did that. He called President Zelensky President Putin. Now here is now we get into the actual press conference.
With that, I'll take your questions. I've been given a list of people to call on here. Reuters, Jeff Mason.
Terrible, 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 terrible. Now, this is more. I was following the advice of my commander-in-chief. I thought you were the commander-in-chief. Who's the commander-in-chief if it ain't you?
I've gotten a more long-range capacity as well as defensive capacity. And so our military is where I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief, the chief. I've gotten a more.
Yeah, somebody say I did it too. I called President Putin, Zelensky, and cuz, man, listening to this guy, I mean, yo, I was trying so hard to hang in there with y'all, watching this man just ramble. Oh my goodness, man. I needed some toothpicks to hold my eyes open. I needed something, man. I don't got no coffee. I don't got no energy drink. I don't got nothing to keep me just from falling asleep. Okay, I felt like Sleepy Joe right there. Okay, so now, Commander-in-Chief. Who's the Commander-in-Chief? I thought it was you. Okay, maybe you're going back to your vice president days when the Commander-in-Chief was Barack Obama. Maybe Barack Obama is still in charge. Now, this one, I think he calls Zelensky Putin again during the Big Boy press conference. And by the way, they were literally calling this the Big Boy press conference. I'm not making this up. Big Boy press conference. You're 81 years old. Are you a toddler or a fully grown man?
Did you see any damage to our standing in my leading this conference? Have you seen a more successful conference? What do you think? And the Putin piece, I was talking about Putin, and I said, and now, at the very end, I said, Putin. I said, no, I'm sorry, Zelensky.
Thank you.
Did you see any
I mean, I can't tell if he was just trying to explain what he did at the earlier event or if he made another mistake right there. This was really just, I don't want to hear this man talk no more. I think I'm done. About 20 minutes in, maybe, to this whole little thing that he was doing, I was ready for them to be over. I was like, please just say you done, man. Don't call on nobody else. Just go back to your bed, man. Go back to your basement. Go back to your bed. Enjoy your applesauce and get off my TV. Okay, here's something else.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there. Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to.
You wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump? Who's that? I didn't know that there was a vice president with the last name Trump.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
So what's really going on? Vice President Trump? You mean Vice President Harris? Now, this one you got to see, because this is what I'm talking about if you're not really familiar. Because I was talking about the Big Boy press conference. Now, this is John Kirby and Karine Jean-Pierre, both referring to what you just saw as a Big Boy press conference. Check it out.
After that, the president will hold a press conference. I guess a big boy press conference is what we're calling it, and take some questions from y'all.
This week, President Biden will speak to national labor leaders of AFL-CIO, host the NATO summit to show the unprecedented strength of our alliance, hold a press conference, a big boy press conference, according to Justin Sink from Bloomberg.
I mean, they literally, I'm really just kind of amazed that they would do that. It's like, why would you refer to this as that? That doesn't make any sense. What do we do? That's not a thing that people are going to latch on to. Yeah, my president did a big boy press conference and he pulled his own diaper up. He's potty trained. What are we doing? It's Benjamin Button. I don't understand. This is crazy. This is totally nuts. But hey, man, 81 million votes, right? Yeah, right. I can't tell. If you get 81 million votes, I can't tell. From where? I don't know. Okay, from where? Now, let's keep on rocking here. We got super chats on deck. We got quite a few super chats. I'm going to read these, and then I wrap it on up, put the bowl clean on top, so we get a little bit more time. When did I start streaming? I started streaming at about 6:15, 6:18, because remember, the original time for the press conference was 5:30. Then they changed it to 6:30. I'm like, okay, I'll get there a little bit before 6:30 just to make sure that as soon as they go live, I'm ready to capture it. We're sitting here at 6:30, ain't nothing happening. Then you guys say, hey, they changed it to 7. We're sitting here at 7, nothing is happening. We wait and wait and wait and wait. And 7:28, he comes out and starts talking. And he talked for about an hour total. The little pre-written speech, the teleprompter speech, that was a few minutes. And then most of the time was him spent responding to questions. I don't even want to say answering questions because a lot of the questions didn't really get answered. I felt like whenever there was a specific topic breached, he would expound on the topic in the best way that he knew how, instead of answering the question directly. That's what I think that he did. And that might be a strategy, because when he gets into being very specific with certain nuanced questions, there could be some confusion. He had some old references, Golda Meir, who's been dead since 1978. As he always does, a lot of old references, a lot of old vocabulary, allay their fears. Nobody talks like that anymore. That's not really common language. But this is just what he does. So if you are one of these Democrats, because I have this article here that you guys may or may not have seen. This just came out. This came out right before he went live on stage. This article from CBS News came out. Okay, hold on. Let me put it on the screen for you guys. You see what it says right here. Potentially dozens of Democrats expected to call on Biden to step aside after NATO conference. Okay. Now, this is a live feed right here. But I don't think that they really enjoyed the press conference. I don't think that they enjoyed the debate, obviously, and they did enjoy the ABC interview with George Stephanopoulos, which is pre-recorded, where they could have edited things out. It made them look better, but there's no amount of editing that can change what you saw on the screen. People are saying that he has to go, all right? And even if they're saying he shouldn't go, they're talking about doing the cognitive function test and things of this nature. So I think that a lot of the Democrats are done. They're finished. They don't want to see this guy on stage anymore. But here we are. And really, as I said before, they put themselves in this situation. Listen, they knew that Joe Biden was rapidly declining back in 2020. Because remember, they had C-19, which was a blessing for them because they were able to run their campaign in the basement. He didn't have to go actually travel. But now what's the excuse? Okay, there's no excuse now. There ain't no more COVID now. You could go outside, but now they're sending Jill Biden to do campaign stops. He went to Europe and came back and had to sleep in Camp David for 6 days. And then he came out and did a debate and laid a whole egg. Then he comes out and does an interview with Stephanopoulos and lays another egg. Then he comes out and does this press conference, which in my humble opinion was a third egg. How many eggs you going to lay? You going to put a nest in this fake White House you got and hatch your eggs? I don't know what's going on. This guy has got to go. But hey, 81 million votes, right? Okay, that will not happen again this time because the general public sees him for what he is. During 2020, they were able to kind of hide him in the basement. They got him in his favorite chair with a pair of fuzzy slippers on, and they were able to have him do stuff from right there. Okay, you're Barack Obama's homie. We know you as a vice president from that administration. Let's go back. We can't get Barack Obama back. Michelle don't want to run. So let's get the next best thing in Joe Biden, who was already degeneratively old at that point. Now here we are, 2024. You want to reverse it. You want to go back the other direction. Well, newsflash, ain't no going back. Ain't no other direction. You here now. It's July 2024. The DNC is almost upon us. The RNC is this weekend. It's over. Like, there is no more trying to select somebody else. You run as Joe Biden, it ain't going to work because ain't nobody trying to vote for you. You try to swap in Kamala Harris, nobody likes her. That ain't going to work. You try to slide in Gavin Newsom. Now we got a racial conflict because they thinking you're skipping over the black woman because she's black. Now you got a racial conflict in a Democratic Party, which is the wrong thing to have. So you stuck. And you know what? I don't feel any kind of way bad or tired for him. You made your bed. Now you got to lie in it. You made your bed. Now lie in it. All right. Now we got super chats on deck. And if you like what you are hearing tonight, if you enjoyed the show, please give the video a thumbs up. Like the video, share the video, do all that good stuff. That'll help me out tremendously. Okay. Super chats. Thank you to Introvert Maxing. That's a great name, by the way, who says, that will be Trump in 4 years with the rhino emoji. Shout out to Mark Pearson who says, prayers Joe makes it to election day. Yeah, hey man, it's going to be a rough one. Thank you to Marky M for your dancing donation. Thank you to RV Junkie 1 who says, ABL, you are the best. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. Thank you to Life with Sean who says, does Zelensky buy his workout clothes at Lululemon? Does ABL buy the Zelensky Lululemon line? I would never. You know, I got to wear men's sizes. I don't think he's quite into the men's size section yet. So, hey, if he has workout gear for little boys or something like that, it's a little different, but not for no grown man. All right. I can never wear 28 inseam pants. But anyway, I digress. Shout out to Randy Hutchison for becoming an ABL supporter. Thank you to Crunk Juice who says, will the press give this guy a pass is my question. We will see. That's a very good question. Thank you to Crunk Juice again who says Trump should have did a response press conference right after Biden epic. That's a great idea. Thank you to John Medeski who says, you always do the best with streaming debates and things like this compared to everyone else. Thanks. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. I do my best to do my best. Shout out to Scripture Shores who says, I thought I missed it. When it's due to start? And this was sent at 6:49, so we were there for quite a while after that because it didn't start until almost 7:30. Thank you to Megan Bowen who says, have you heard any of the supposed lies that Trump told during the debate? They keep saying it, but I haven't heard any. There are no lies. They just were trained to use it as a talking point. And then when you challenge them to say, well, didn't you watch it? It's just like when, how can I say? I want to say this properly. If someone is offended by something and then you ask them, well, what did I say? What's offensive? Well, don't worry about it. You don't know. You don't know why you're offended. You just heard something that you think is offensive, or you heard a thing that you think is supposed to be offensive, therefore you took offense. But in reality, you don't know why you're offended. You're like a dog that's trained to do a certain thing because of, you were trained to do this. Same thing with a horse. When you tie a horse up to a post, the horse knows it can't move. But what the horse associates after a certain period of time is the tie down being deployed on something. You can put that tie down on a plastic little beach chair and the horse ain't gonna move because he thinks he can't. It's the same thing. You ask the horse, why are you not moving? I mean, I got this thing on my neck. Well, it's not attached to anything. Well, now the horse is gonna buck on you because he's just trying to do a certain thing and now you're challenging it. Thank you to Jennifer 1776 for your donation. I appreciate you. Thank you to Scripture Shores again for your donation, the 100 emoji. Thank you to John Medeski who says they might be doing this to get him out of there. We'll see. Good point. Thank you to Greatness 81 who says, do you think Biden is going to announce he's sending U.S. troops to fight Russia? I don't think so, because that's mutually assured destruction. That'd be a wrap because they're going to push the nuclear button. Ain't no troops going to go into Russia. It's going to be nuclear weapons flying. Thank you to Matt Saluk 5 who says, big boy diapers for this one. I'm a big boy now. Shout out to them. Thank you to Denny who says, thanks for all you do, ABL. Thank you for your super chat. Thank you to J Flo who says, thanks, ABL, with the eagle emoji, American flag emoji, and the trophy. I appreciate that. Shout out to John Medeski who says they hit him in 2020, didn't even campaign, and have been covering for him all this time. It's over when the people running things want it. Let's see. Thank you to GW for you becoming a supporter. Thank you to Heavy Hard Drive who says, somebody check Life Alert. Following, they can't get up. Shout out to Mimsy who says he's out getting the sniff on. Thank you to Gypsy Queen for becoming a supporter. Thank you to Skirt who says they have been trying to get him to drink the provided water and he just keeps dodging it. No, Joe, just take a sip from the glass. We are your friends. Hey, somebody thinking in 3D and 4D. Absolutely. Thank you to Matthew Andrews for your dancing emoji. I appreciate you for that. Thank you to R. Scott for gifting 5 ABL memberships. Thank you to John Medeski who says, if they gave him ketchup instead of baby blood, they are done with him. If he comes out jacked, he's still in the game. Shout out to Lothair who says, I swear this guy is hours late. I wish we can fire our president. This is literally elder abuse. Promise him ice cream. He will show up. Thank you to Gypsy Queen who says, hey, ABL, you're doing a great job. Thank you for that. Thank you to Richard Smith for the try again video game emoji. Shout out to Miriam Vidal, who says Biden circle is having the "we're taking away grandpa's car keys" conversation right now. Yes, absolutely. Decade Presidential Mike, who says Joe's family don't care about him or his health. They sure don't. I don't know horses. You're right. I'm not a horse expert. I'm sorry. I don't have a barn. I'm just a regular dude. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry for my lack of horse knowledge. Shout out to Lothar again, who says the Crypt Keeper finally shows up. He sure did. Thank you to Matt Luck 5, who says Big Boy Biden turning big rocks into little rocks in his diapers. Thank you to Greatness 81, who says gotta keep the money laundering going in Ukraine. Absolutely. Shout out to Tanya Chaplin, who says eggs went from $7 to $12. Yeah, prices fell. Laughing emojis. Thank you to Garfofsky for becoming a member. Thank you to John Medeski, who says he's not a good person, but it's still sad. Correct. Thank you to Matt Luck 5, who says VP Trump, laughing emojis, is now a she. Thank you to John Medeski. Yeah, because you talking about my vice president Trump. It's like, what? Your vice president Trump? What are you talking about? You mean your vice president Kamala Harris? Shout out to John Medeski, who says he can read a teleprompter decently, but that's about it. Thank you to Uncle Dan 58, who says, wow, and they'd like to say Trump's a liar with the Pinocchio emoji. Shout out to Neva for the dapping emoji. I appreciate you for that. Thank you to Matt Luck 5, who says, I just got to pace myself. I can only sniff 3 kids a day. That's crazy. Thank you to John Medeski, who says, this is the first time this dude has taken questions in 8 years. Sink or swim for Joe going forward. They have time. Thank you to Michael Guest, who says, all aboard the Biden bumper car. Shout out to Rob Bear, who says he could have had a bad day while making the decision regarding war. Thank you to Drift Madness, who says he can't put a sentence together, falling apart. Thank you to Steve Travago, who says ABL in chat, be safe out there. Thank you to Matt Luck 5, who says, and then one time in Bandcamp, I got a call. Thank you to Cal Denson, who says, quote, foreign policy has never been his strong point, unquote. Clown emojis. Trump literally has stability on the global stage. We are on the brink of a global conflict. Correct. Thank you to Tanya Chaplin, who says, this guy's so difficult to watch. I can't take much more. I was right there with you. Right around 7:55, I was pretty much, hey, put a fork in this guy. I'm done. Thank you to Papa Nye Shelley, who says, truck driver here. They keep passing legislation allowing non-English speaking people to get their CDL. You're a cold fool if you think the plan isn't to replace American drivers with illegals. Absolutely. And these illegal aliens drive any kind of way. They be about 15 Coronas deep in their Honda, whipping it all across the interstate like it ain't nothing going on. Yeah, I don't want to be on the road with them. Thank you to John Medeski, who says, y'all, I'm an American, don't care about other countries. Right on. Thank you to JM, who says, and by the way, I pooped my big boy pants. I saved them for show and tell. Shout out to Master Luck 5, who says, but they export Chinese spy balloons. They don't they, Joe? Thank you to JP for gifting 5 ABL memberships. Thank you to Vols Time, who says, go back to bed, Joe. Absolutely. Thank you to A, who says, here's the deal, ABL. Quote, thanks for taking the time to analyze this effed up world. It's hard enough just living in it. Hey, no problem. I got you. I got your back. As long as y'all got me, I got y'all. Thank you to Bob Victor 1, who says, if this guy doesn't get us in World War III, he deserves jail. Thank you to Crunk Juice, who says, oh my God, this is painful. Very painful. Thank you to Laura Catherine, who says, it's so bad. Thank you to Big Bork Little Bite, who says, warning, battery at 5%. Plug in the president. Yeah, put that man back in the cryogenic chamber and get him a little bit more juice in there. And that little concoction, hey, shoot that in his hind parts and he'll be all right. And that big needle, big as a water bottle, right in the hind parts. Thank you to Michael Guest, who says they declared that Biden wasn't competent to stand the trial. Then he's not competent to stand as president. You can't have it one without the other. I absolutely. Remember that whole thing? Oh, he's a frail old man. Remember that? Yeah. So let's have that same thing apply to becoming the president. Thank you to, hold on. Shout out to Monroe Doctrine, who says Biden's Twitter posted in response to the VP Trump statement. Okay. Did it really respond? Biden's Twitter or Trump's Twitter? Okay, let me see if I can see something here. Oh, really? He really responded. Okay. I got to show this. Yeah, show this live right now. So Trump put something on Truth Social. He says, Crooked Joe begins with his big boy press conference with, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, though I think she was not qualified to be president. Great job, Joe. And then Joe Biden's Twitter responded, okay, I'm right here, official, all this and that. He says, by the way, yes, I know the difference. One's a prosecutor and the other's a felon. But, okay, what do you mean? Who are you talking about? You are the one that said Vice President Trump. Kamala Harris's last name is not Trump at all. Doug Emhoff, her husband, he does not have Trump anywhere in her name. Kamala Harris does not have Trump anywhere in her name. It ain't Kamala Trump Harris. It ain't Trump Kamala Harris. It ain't Kamala Harris Trump. It's just Kamala Harris. Where you getting the Trump from? You just confused. Okay, you got some brain issues going on. Why in the world would anybody think it's a great idea to put this out as a response? Are these people idiots? I don't understand. They're dumb. I'm gonna read some of these. See if I can see some of these reactions here. It's a bunch of spam in there. That's what I thought it was going to be. Somebody said they're going to fire the intern that wrote that. Yeah, the intern that wrote that is pretty much I don't think that the intern has that much power to just post whatever they want, but somebody's head should roll for that. Okay, the comms team or somebody's heads should absolutely roll. Okay, now let's keep on going here. And shout out to you guys for still rocking with me. You still got over 3,000 in the build. I think we had a max of over 7,000 concurrent. Shout out to you guys for being here. What was the actual max concurrent, if I can find it? It was 7,300, 7,450. I think that was max concurrent. So shout out to you guys for joining. Thank you to Crunk Juice, who says, best comment of the night. Warning, battery at 15%. I mean, at 5%. Plug the president in. Shout out to Warden Word, who says, you know it's bad when ChatGPT would make more sense in its answers than this guy. Absolutely. Thank you to Master Luck 5, who says, Joe, your meds are running out. Yeah, the meds are pretty much done. Thank you to Sherry Ford, who says, this is sad. Love your show, wave, heart emoji. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. Shout out to Zeto's Cane Sword for gifting 5 ABL memberships. We get the memberships loaded. You guys are really getting helped out by some really good people in the show who've been supporting for a very long time. So shout out to you, Zeto's Cane Sword. Thank you to John Madescu, who says, this is some softball crap, all questions approved, of course. Thank you to Master Luck 5, who says, ABL t-shirts, buying, quote, control guns, not girls, WTF, yeah. Who's trying to control girls, Joe? Are you trying to, where did that come from? Control guns, not girls. I don't think we're trying to control girls. Now, I've seen some questionable things from you, sir, about trying to control girls in the shower and things like that when you're a full-grown man and she's 13 years old. But different story, I digress. Thank you to J Hub, who says, Lord, bless his heart. Old man emojis. Thank you to Mr. Too Fresh, who says, he doesn't blink. Laughing emojis. Shout out to Scripture Shores, who says, what's this? Girl, not G's. Girl should not go abort. Wake up, Joe. Sleepy emoji. Thank you to Sherry Ford, who says, the jokes are wearing off. Laughing emoji. Thank you to Smooth Artist, who says, the real Biden is about to come out. Thank you to Zero Campbell, who says, dude had an earpiece, most likely, in my opinion. Thank you to Tanya Chaplin, who says, he's right. Delaware was a red state when he started. It was right until 1936. Shout out to Smooth Artist, who says, whispers. Thank you to DJ Safe America, who says, hold on, I got a few. DJ Safe America token donated 120 Ethereum. Okay, we ain't doing that. Shout out to your S-Coin. Thank you to Gaber Dropnik for your good job emoji. Thank you to Grumpy Gata25, who says, Trump was made VP and the woman all at once. Thank you to Ojo, who says, at Sheree is an awesome mod. Thank you to A for becoming a member of the ABL squad. Thank you to Kelly Hartnett, who said hi from Vancouver, wishing you well. Shout out to Vancouver, BC, Canada. Thank you to A, who says, ABL, did you get that CD I sent? If you sent something to my P.O. box, I've not been there in a little while. I did get a delivery a couple days ago, I think, but I got to go out there to get it. So I'll probably have it pretty soon, probably by the weekend when I go out there. Thank you to Kim for your super chat as well. I really, really appreciate you. Hopefully I got everybody because I saw a few come in toward the end. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone. If I miss anybody, I'm sorry. It's not my fault. Please blame the white man. Let me make sure that, because I saw one that I didn't see here. Okay, I'm gonna look at another section to make sure I didn't miss anything. And shout out to you, Jazz Dude. Jazz Dude says, thanks for the stream from a near bankrupt Germany. Shout out to Allgemeine Deutschland, Germany, all of that. Thank you to Ansel, who says Biden dang near ran off the stage when he ended the press conference. What happened to his limp? Hey, you got that, that situational limp. Please feel bad for me. I'm an old limping man. And then when he doesn't need to do that, all of a sudden it vanishes. Funny how that works. Very, very funny how that works. All right, let me make sure that I got everybody. I'm going to go back here and kind of review it. But shout out to you guys. I really, really appreciate y'all for joining me tonight. All right. I think I got everybody. Okay, I don't see anything that's missing here. Pardon me. Excuse me. I think I got everyone. I'm sure I sure did. All right, so that'll pretty much be a wrap for me. Shout out to you guys. I appreciate y'all for joining me on an impromptu Thursday night stream. I'll be back live again on Saturday, of course. Same bat time, same bat place, 8 p.m. Eastern time to 11. Like I'm early now. Normally I would say right around right now, but it's actually about 9 o'clock Eastern. So 8 to 11 Eastern, I'll be back here streaming live on Saturday. And I'm putting out pre-recorded content. I'm going to do a summary of this thing, of this press conference. I may have enough from my post-conference talk that I did live to make that be its own video. If not, I'll make another video. And if they have responses and reactions from the media, I may include that in the updated video if I do it. But that'll be a wrap. Shout out to Guy Tori for the number one emoji. Shout out to the comedian Guy Tori as well. Funny guy. And thank you to Gabor Dropnik. And I know I'm turning your name up. You're watching from Slovenia. Shout out to Slovenia. Shout out to Melania Trump, who's from Slovenia. Also, shout out to Luka Doncic, also from Slovenia. That's up there by Northern Italy, if I'm not mistaken. So shout out to you guys. All right. So that'll be a wrap for me. Thank you guys for being here. But until next time, y'all be safe. I'm out. And